What's up? Today we're diving into a sick new webtoon. The Ultimate Weapon returns. After 100 million years. Before we get into it, if you dig what you see, smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. The guy was obviously using his powers for the first time, but he still managed to completely shake the one praised as the best hope for becoming a holy knight. See, human civilization was wiped out a long time ago, and he was treated like some low-tier species with no animalistic powers. Turns out, 100 million years ago, Earth's non-stop pollution gave birth to some mutant freaks called the Fallen. They had such insane regenerative abilities that not even a nuke could completely wipe them out. So, humans were forced to constantly experiment on living people to find a way to fight back. They finally found an answer, but it was already too late, because by then, there was almost nobody left alive in the world. With an ice-cold voice, he said, "Finally found it." In a flash, Jin Sidu dropped from the sky. Cut to some desolate, remote wasteland, where a young guy is running for his life, letting out a massive scream. While running, he was panting and yelling, "Is anyone there? Are there any other survivors?" In this situation, the kid could do nothing but break down and cry his eyes out. Just then, a huge, messed-up-looking monster appeared right in front of him. And it wasn't just one or two. The kid was completely surrounded. They slowly closed in on him. It made him freak out. "Save me!" The young man screamed in desperation. "Can anyone hear me? Anyone at all? Please, you gotta help me. The ones who burn this world to ashes, please make them pay for it." Just then, a few flashes of light suddenly appeared in the sky. The next second, Jin showed up. With his power, he easily wasted one of the monsters, leaving the young man in front of him completely stunned and clueless. While the kid was still trying to figure out what the hell was going on, Jin spoke up, "My bad. I know I'm late." The moment he saw the insane energy coming off this guy, the kid got curious. Who are you?" Jin, with his piercing blue eyes, stayed silent for a long time. This made the kid suddenly start to tremble. With a slight smile on his face, he choked out, "Oh, right. We can finally take our world back now, right?" His voice echoed through the empty space, as faint as a breeze on the water. Jin Sidu replied coldly, "Yeah, that's right. So you can rest in peace now." The young man forced a smile with a dazed look in his eyes and said, "Thank you so much. Thank you." And just like that, he passed away right in front of Jin Sidu. A soft sound was heard right after. This made Jin's expression darken in an instant, his brow furrowing in complete helplessness. "Jin Sidu, you were too slow." As soon as he saw the person in front of him, Jin coldly turned his head to look, then said the name, Kagura. Kagura adjusted his glasses slightly and replied, "He was probably the last survivor in this area. Just give it up, Jin. You need to face this grim reality." Hearing Kagura's words, Jin could only hang his head in silence. Kagura then stated with dead certainty, "The human race is well and truly extinct. They were born from endless environmental pollution, those disgusting mutant monsters, and the whole legion of the Fallen. They have regeneration abilities that are just unbelievable. Not even nuclear weapons could erase them. However, we never once thought about giving up, constantly running experiments on human bodies, and we finally found the tools to fight back. But now, there's no one left for us to save, right?" Kagura sighed helplessly as he spoke. He watched the last person on Earth fade away as his voice echoed. "We really were too late." Jin tried to argue back. "There's still something worth protecting." Hearing this, Kagura was extremely skeptical. "You seriously believe there are still survivors out there?" Jin breezed past him like the wind, softly replying, "Not exactly." With a smile, Jin Sidu stated firmly, "I'm talking about the future. Those nanomachines you worked so hard to create, they can also heal the environment, can't they?" Kagura replied, "That's right." Hearing this, Jin continued his analysis. "That nano army doesn't just cancel out their abilities. The Fallen's regeneration is stopped, and they also activate the planet's own revival process. And then one day, this planet will find its original beauty again. And at that very moment, a new civilization will definitely blossom, just like humanity once did." After listening to Jin Sidu for a while, Kagura couldn't help but be skeptical. "Sounds like some far-fetched fairy tale." Jin Sidu calmly explained, "That's enough for me. Maybe just that tiny sliver of hope is more than enough. In Jin Sidu's thoughts, the power I hold might just be necessary in the future. Believing in the word maybe, who knows? It might be the very key to saving the entire future." After watching Jin lie in the experiment pod for a moment, Kagura turned and left with the fragile optimism he had left. Just being able to pass that chance on to the next generation is enough. Just then, a voice echoed from nowhere, "Hibernation system activated." While the monsters were scattered all over the Earth, the system's voice grew louder and louder. According to the system's count, the Earth was slowly but surely returning to its former self. Meanwhile, the monsters were losing their vitality by the day. The count just kept rising: 32,416, 56,428, 84,524. And so, the sun rose high. As life began to sprout, as birds soared through the vast sky, the era of the monsters was slowly fading away. 184,236, 246,578, 306,938, 562,487, 847,527. As the numbers climbed, the earth gradually grew lush and green again. Cute rabbits, horses grazing peacefully, a scene the earth hadn't witnessed in forever. Meanwhile, the numbers kept climbing: 3,842,235, 5,254,690, 7,550,192, 14,250,785, 25,402,437, 45,756,249, 89,524,250. When the Earth saw the sun again and had blue oceans and white sandy beaches, that was the story of 100 million years later. A system alert blared. Access code received. Commencing dehibernation sequence. Frantic footsteps echo. Hakama's face is drenched in sweat. Her family's running for their lives from some red-eyed monster. Things are totally desperate. Denpo's trailing behind, crying his eyes out and screaming. You sure he's even in a dump like this? Hakama shot back, totally sure of herself. He's here. Sandy, looking hopeless, cut in. Yeah, but if he's not, we're screwed. Like, totally dead. Hearing that, Hakama just said, I'm telling you, he's here. Then she grabbed the necklace around her neck, holding it tight. A second later, Hakama's eyes went wide. She got all serious and said, Our guardian god is definitely here. And with that, she and the others bolted for the busted old temple door right in front of them. They shoved the door open in a panic. But inside, nothing. Denpa's voice was full of despair. Dude, look, it's a dead end. As soon as he said it, even Hakama's face fell. She was too freaked out to speak. And right then, the massive, psycho monster caught up to them. That just made Sandy freak out even more. What are we going to do now? While his two friends just huddled on the floor, waiting to die, Hakama clung to one last sliver of hope, begging, Please, save us. She screamed, tears streaming down her face. Please, save us, our guardian god. The second the words left her mouth, the test chamber just exploded. And in that instant, a voice cut through the chaos. Request. Received. Then this insane blast of energy just shot out, right at the monster. Hakama and her crew just stared, totally stunned. One hit, and the monster was toast. Hakama's crew was still reeling from what just happened. Meanwhile, that strange voice echoed again. See, I told you your faith wasn't a waste of time, right? A figure slowly stepped out of the broken chamber, and it was him. Jin. He'd been in cryo for 100 million years, just waiting to come back. With a smirk, Jin said loud and clear, Believe in the infinite possibilities of the future. He was opening some storage box as he spoke. This storage box Kagura made is seriously impressive. My clothes are still in perfect condition. But when he looked at the computer screen, he couldn't believe it. Wait, is this really the world 100 million years from now? Almost all the data is corrupted. It's kind of crazy this shelter is still standing after all this time. Guess it's all thanks to the nanoparticles in the air. The syringe on the table, that's the nano-infusion device. Picking up a small box, Jin Sidu thought to himself, Man, I really want to know what the hell happened to this planet. But Kagura only left me this single message cube. Ugh. But before I deal with that, just as he was thinking, Jin, who was still buck naked, turned to Hakama and her friends and asked, can you guys fill me in on what's going on right now? Oh, damn, my bad. Guess I've been naked for the last 100 million years. Huh. The more he talked, the more Hakama's crew just stared with their jaws on the floor. Jin calmly pulled his gloves back on, then added, There, that's better. Gotta look presentable, right? And just like that, Jin was decked out in the same clothes he wore 100 million years ago. The secret door, sealed for centuries, finally opened to the light of day. Jin Sidu and the others slowly stepped outside. And when he saw what was out there, Jin Sidu was completely and utterly floored. Staring at the lush green landscape, the endless mountains, the long river, Jin Sidu couldn't believe his eyes. So, this is the world after 100 million freaking years? There's not a single trace left of the world I knew. Seeing him just spacing out, Hakama tugged on his sleeve. Mr. Guardian God, please, this way. Stick close to us. She pointed over to where Denpao and the others were walking up ahead. Jin's eyes immediately locked on them. He couldn't help but wonder, are those humans? No way. Humanity was supposed to have been wiped out in the last era. Could they have evolved into a human-like form over all this time? The more he thought, the more he sized up Denpao and Sandy. How weird is that? While Hakama was giving Jin Sidu a totally confused look, he was just lost in his own head. They were probably affected by the nanoparticles. The fact that they're still speaking the same language from 100 million years ago is all the proof I need. With that thought, Jin smiled and decided to introduce himself. Oh, right. I haven't even introduced myself. The name's Jin Sidu, but you can just call me Jin. Okay, Hakama replied. I'm Hakama Finn. You can just call me Hakama. Denpao and Sandy, who were nearby, immediately jumped in. I'm Denpao. And I'm Sandy. After hearing them out, Jin Sidu had to ask, so, what's the deal? What do you guys need me to do? Hakama explained as she pulled him along. We're almost there. We need you to take out the invader that's out there. This just made Jin even more confused. And, invader? While they were talking, Sandy's face suddenly went ghost white. He started shaking, totally terrified, and screamed. When they saw their village was on fire, Sandy and Denpao were completely horrified. Our village. Sandy couldn't hold it in anymore and just took off running, screaming, Dad, Mom. Hakama, right behind him, tried to stop him. Wait, don't run in there. But Jin just stood there, silently taking it all in. It was pretty much exactly what he'd expected. Wooden fences, houses built out of wood. Looks like civilization hasn't exactly advanced much. Right after that thought, Jin Sidu followed Hakama and the others deeper into the burning village. When she saw what was happening, Hakama's face went pale. In a flash, she screamed, Grandma. Her grandmother, the village chief, was in a standoff with a massive monster. As soon as she saw Hakama, she yelled out, full of worry, Hakama, kid, what are you doing back here right now? Looking at the monster, Jin Sidu thought to himself with a cold look. So that's the invader they were all worked up about. Just looks like a corrupted beast to me. Do people in this era really call them invaders? The chief just helplessly pleaded, get out of here, now. Hakama obviously didn't give a damn. Unleashing her power, she made it crystal clear. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here to back you up. The second he saw the energy flowing through her, Jin Sidu was kind of shocked, thinking to himself, this reaction. Guess it's time to put it to the test. The thought barely finished before he charged in. With a single strike, Jin Sidu effortlessly sent the monster flying. The moment the village chief was safe, Hakama seized the opening and rushed in. Seeing her blast the monster with her power, Jin Sidu couldn't help but praise her. Nice. Go for it. Hakama focused on gathering power in her palms, then blasted it right at the monster. The power exploded on impact, making it stumble back in pain. It was only when he saw the monster's corpse lying on the ground that he knew for sure. So it really is the microparticle regeneration inhibitor mechanism. The monster's degenerated cells show zero signs of recovery. She can control atmospheric nanoparticles. Usually, only people with a compatible body type can pull that off. But as he was thinking this, he wondered. That fireball. Can just anyone in this era do that? His question made the village chief a little suspicious. This era. Even so, she still answered Jin Sidu's question. No, only a select few have that ability. They're the ones who possess divine power. Including me, there are only 4 people in this village. This totally caught Jin Sidu off guard. Divine power? A second later, he was lost in thought again. So that's what they call the energy used to control nanoparticles. Just then, Hakama suddenly ran over to the village chief, asking with a super worried look on her face. Grandma, where is everyone from the village? The chief answered gently, I already got them all evacuated. But more importantly, why the hell did you kids come back here? As she said this, she frowned, totally hopeless. This village? It's over. That monster from before was just a newborn. We're completely helpless against the real adults. It won't be long before a whole swarm of them floods this place and wipes the entire village off the map. Just as she finished whining, another voice cut in. Grandma, can you stop being such a coward for a second? Seeing the person speaking, the village chief called out, Sax. Meanwhile, Sax just calmly said, these invaders are nothing. I'll tear every single one of them to shreds. The chief asked anxiously, where did you take the villagers? Sax replied, I personally led all of them to the shelter. Hakama slowly ran over and gently called out, Dad. Seeing his daughter, Hakama's dad smiled and asked, Hakama, I was worried sick when I didn't see you at the shelter. Where on earth did you go? Hakama answered loud and clear, I went to the sealed door. Hearing that, the village chief was totally horrified. Hakama, you got some serious nerve. How dare you go into that forbidden zone? Hakama stammered back, scared. Grandma once told me that our village's guardian god is sleeping behind that door, and if the village is ever in danger, he'll definitely show up to save us. The second she heard that, the chief immediately followed Hakama's gaze, landing on Jin Sidu with curiosity. This is the guy? He doesn't have the air of a god at all. Cutting her off, Sax suddenly scoffed. Hemph, give me a break. This lowlife is supposed to be a guardian god? Stop trying to be funny. Hearing this, Jin Sidu scowled, annoyed. Lowlife? Sandy tried to get closer to Sax to explain, Bro, hey, this guy really is our guardian god. The more he heard, the more confused Sax got. What? I was wondering where you went. So you were with Hakama? With that, Sax walked right up to Jin Sidu and sized him up with a contemptuous tone. Look at his ears. He's just a lowlife, with no beastkin features at all. He was probably just wandering around there by chance, and you guys totally got the wrong idea. Hearing Sax's analysis, Sandy immediately shot back. No, we're not mistaken. He defeated one of the invaders with his own hands. Sax just laughed his ass off and shot back. You mean that baby from before? I could finish that thing off with one hit. As he said this, he didn't even hesitate to point his blade right at Jin Sidu and threatened coldly, Listen up. This is our village's business. We don't need a lowly outsider butting in. Get it? Don't interfere. As soon as he finished, Sax zipped past Jin Sidu like the wind. Seeing him leave, Hakama's father couldn't help but ask, Wait, Sax, where are you going? Sax replied, Isn't it obvious? I'm going to exterminate that giant monster, while you all can just stay here and shake in your boots, Sax said, his face and voice dripping with contempt. This made the village chief feel totally helpless. She immediately warned him, You idiot, you could save your own skin if you just ran away right now. In this situation, Jin Sidu just kept quiet, enjoying the drama. The village chief slowly approached him and spoke seriously. All right, I don't know who you are, but thank you for helping the children. If you don't mind, please take these kids to the shelter with my son. Could you? I have to go after Sax and stop him. This is my last gamble. As soon as she heard this, Hakama called out worriedly, Grandma. Jin Sidu couldn't have cared less about her request. He just coldly retorted, making the village chief pause, I refuse. I have self-respect, you know. I'm not going to just stand here and let him call me a lowlife. So just let Sax go get himself killed. With a totally firm tone, Jin Sidu just turned and walked away, leaving everyone completely stunned. As the sun started to set, the leader of the monsters showed up, a massive beast covered in tough scales. It slowly stomped forward. Just then, a figure suddenly appeared, and a voice rang out, Hey, you overgrown lizard. With a spear in his hand, Sax released his power and stated firmly, I am the one who will carry the fate of this nation on my shoulders. A warrior destined to become a holy knight. You think an invader of your level can stop me? I'll show you I'm strong enough to take you down without anyone's help. The words barely left his mouth before Sax, crackling with lightning, charged straight for the leader. This obviously got the attention of the little monsters. They all instantly braced themselves for a fight. Then he just shot straight for Sax. With one clean slash, he totally wrecked them, which just puffed up his ego even more. Sax screamed, You're in my way. This one slash is all I need to end you. The second he said it, Sax charged straight at the alpha. Then he jumped up super high and yelled, Eat this. In a flash, Sax landed a solid hit on the big one's body. Blood started gushing out, which just got Sax all hyped up. The alpha screamed in pain, but then, super fast, its wound just healed itself. In this situation, Sax was totally floored, thinking, Are the bite marks on its body healing on their own? While he was totally lost in his own head, the monster had already lunged at him. In a split second, a desperate scream echoed out. But whatever, Sax was totally fine. Confused, he peeked his eyes open. It was Jin Sidu. The guy showed up with his powers and totally saved Sax's skin. Jin mockingly asked, You done with your little clown show? As soon as he saw him, Sax stammered back, You. Before he could even finish, he had to dodge an attack from the little ones. Looking at them, Sax wondered, These things can still move. Just then, Jin was slightly moving his hand. The next second, he snapped his fingers, and instantly, all the little minions got wrecked in one hit. In this situation, Sax was just completely bewildered. He looked at the monster minions lying defeated on the ground and asked himself, What the hell is even happening? Just then, a sound echoed from far away. Over here. Run this way. Hurry up. It was Hakama's crew. The second they saw Sax, they freaked out and started calling for him. But, as soon as they said it, both the village chief and Hakama's dad were completely stunned by the scene. The chief's jaw just dropped, and he muttered, What the hell am I even looking at? What is this madness? Something that huge and massive. And he's stopping it with just one hand? Then Jin suddenly said, "It's starting to get heavy. For now, everyone back off." Hearing this, Sax was just confused. Huh. Jin didn't say another word, just yanked him away. Just as planned, the monster came crashing down towards them, which freaked Sax out even more. After getting saved by Jin Sidu, he immediately asked, "What the hell even are you?" Jin calmly replied, "Those creatures can heal instantly, no matter how much damage you deal to them. That's why we have to use nanites to block their regeneration." The more he listened, the more confused Sax got. "Nano, what?" Jin stood up slowly, then explained more. "It's what people like you call divine power. That last attack of yours wasn't half bad. Too bad it was too shallow to actually trigger the anti-healing effect." After hearing this, Sax, with a totally lost look on his face, asked, "Are you for real, the legendary guardian god?" Jin casually answered, "I'm no god or whatever, but there's one thing I need to make clear. You said this was this village's problem, right?" Sax stammered in agreement. "Yeah, that's right. That's why I—" Before he could finish his sentence, Jin cut him off. "You're dead wrong. This is actually my own personal problem." Just then, the monster, already back to full strength, charged straight at him. With his insane agility, Jin easily dodged every single move. While watching it carefully, he calculated his next move. "First, I'll lock down all its movements." The moment he thought it, he flicked his hand, blowing up a small tentacle. In a flash, it spread across the monster's entire body. That made it let out a crazy scream of pain. While Sax's jaw was on the floor watching this, Jin just kept talking. "These freaks. They're monsters born from our own stupidity. And that's why it's my responsibility, as a survivor from 100 million years ago, to clean up this mess myself." The moment he finished, Jin Sidu gathered lightning in his hand, getting ready to strike. This just made Sax even more disbelieving and suspicious. "I don't really get anything you're saying, but can you actually do it?" Jin Sidu stated it like it was obvious. "Of course I can, because I am a product of human civilization, born from its bloody history. From all those long, endless days full of brutality and tragic drama, the last human being left alive." And right then, Jin Sidu unleashed his immense power at the monster, making the water around them erupt like a tidal wave. The monster opened its giant mouth wide, and then it took the full force of Jin Sidu's attack. What happened next was insane. With just one move, he easily vaporized the monster. The situation unfolding in front of them obviously left Hakama's crew totally floored. Everyone was just staring, jaws wide open in shock. Hakama even broke into a huge grin, looking totally stoked. Jin's insane power went way beyond what any normal person could imagine, shooting straight through the planet's atmosphere. After his attack, the monster was finally defeated. Sax was scared out of his mind, his face drenched in sweat with a look of panicked disbelief. Meanwhile, Jin was totally calm, confirming the power of his ultimate scientific weapon. Finally, after saying his piece, a small smile appeared on his lips. Somewhere not far from Jin Sidu, a faint rustling sound suddenly came from nearby. The girl hiding in the bushes had seen everything, and her mind was completely and utterly blown. "I was just supposed to be investigating the new invasive species that showed up near this Kodama village, but I just witnessed something totally unbelievable. What even was that power? I'm not even sure the captain of the Holy Knights in the Imperial capital could pull that off. This is, like, a super big deal. I need to get back to the capital as soon as possible and report all of this to the guild master." The second she had that thought, the girl with the magnifying glass had this huge, excited grin on her face. When night fell, a voice echoed from a corner of the forest. "Can you hear me? Jin, if you're listening to this, then I'm probably not on this earth anymore." Kagura let out his smug laugh. "I've always wanted to say a classic movie line like that. So, what's the future look like from where you're standing? The global environment has got to be a lot better, right?" "There's still one problem that's come up," Jin repeated, confused. "A problem? All right," Kagura is cutting the crap. "I'm just going to get straight to the point. Even if the ecosystem bounces back, those corrupted freaks won't be completely wiped out." Jin Sidu's eyes narrowed. Just then, Kagura noticed it. "I started seeing that something was wrong. About 1,000 years after you went into cryosleep, I had to go into sleep mode periodically myself just to keep an eye on how things were changing. Thanks to nature making a comeback, the number of those corrupted things dropped big time. When the satellite zoomed in on a red dot, it caught this freaky silhouette and a black horse just wrecking stuff. The guy was radiating this insane killing intent. He spotted the camera instantly, and the screen just went black. Kagura started to get worried. As nature changed, new, evolved versions of the corrupted started popping up. I had no clue what they'd turn into, but I knew they'd be a massive pain in the ass. All I could do back then was prep the new life forms, give them a fighting chance against those monsters. Even a little bit helped, And at the same time, I left a little backup power source just for you. Hearing that, Jin subconsciously reached into his pocket. Power? He held the injector, skeptical as hell. You mean this thing right here? Kagura's voice kept going. Just activate it. The nanites will automatically show you how to work them. Through body enhancement. You're the only one who's perfectly compatible with the nano and can use this power. After injecting it, the thing in Jin Sidu's hand vanished, leaving him feeling kinda empty. Suddenly, a dagger appeared in his palm. Jin Sidu was starting to get it. So this is the ability to create matter by restructuring nanoparticles. This thing is seriously useful. Kagura added proudly. I've hidden similar upgrade energy sources at that secret research facility scattered all over the planet. I didn't stick them all in one place to avoid risk. If the corrupted scum somehow got their hands on them, this way, they wouldn't all get destroyed at once. And besides, I wanted you to go out and explore this big-ass world for yourself. Kagura said honestly, look, I can't predict how dangerous those freaks will be way down the line. But, compared to the wrecked world of the past, things are definitely a hell of a lot better now. Nearby, August Anton stopped his horse when he heard a weird noise. Was that the sound of someone running like crazy? It was that brown-haired girl. The town was already dead asleep, thanks to how peaceful it was. Here and there, you could see a few candles from people reading. Kagura gave Jin Sidu a reassuring smile. So for now, just try to enjoy this new world, all right. The screen glitched, showing an old figure. I won't be able to be by your side to see it with you. Jin couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. The old Kagura left one last message. It's all on you now, Jin Sidu. The box returned to its original shape as Jin fell silent. I get it. Just then, two small figures ran up to him. Sir Guardian. Hakama was thrilled to see him. So this is where you were, Denpao said, all tired. Everyone's been freaking out looking for you. The two of them grabbed his arm, begging. Please, you gotta come back. The party can't start without the guest of honor. Suddenly, Jin Sidu tensed up. His eyes locked onto something hanging around Hakama's neck. Is that an access key to the research institute? Jin asked the little girl as she dragged him along. Hakama, where'd you get that pendant? Hakama touched the key, looking confused. This? Oh, she answered honestly. My family got it from some great dude a super long time ago. It's a protective charm that's been passed down for generations. They say that if the village is ever in deep crap, this thing will lead the Guardian to come protect us. Jin cracked a small smile at the new info. So that's it. No wonder the kid could get inside. Looks like I owe them a pretty big one. Back in the village, a fire was blazing and everyone was having a good time. They all looked up when they heard the commotion. This way, hurry up. Everyone was wondering the same damn thing. Is that guy really the Guardian from the legends? They couldn't help but look him up and down. Are you kidding me? No matter how you slice it, he just looks like some low-life scrub. The guy kept trash-talking, not realizing Sax was about to blow a fuse. That scrawny dude really took down that monster? Jita spotted the group just as Sax slammed his fist into the loudmouth's face. What the hell would you know? You were too busy running for your lives. Sandy nervously asked the guy who got hit. Are you okay, sir? I'm so sorry for the disrespect. Sax yelled, our god, the Guardian, is freaking amazing. Hakama was shocked. What a total 180 in attitude. Thank God. This made Denpao relax. It was like he was a totally different person from this afternoon. The village chief came up from behind, smiling. Ah, so there you are. Jin greeted her politely. Village chief. She asked him carefully, please, allow me to say this one more time on behalf of all the villagers. We want to give you our deepest thanks. The man next to her was also super grateful. If you hadn't shown up when you did, this entire village would have been totally wiped off the map. We really want to repay you for this. Jin just gave a slight smile. Don't worry about it. The man still wanted to thank him, but Jin cut him off. If you're serious, I don't need stuff. What I need right now is information. I want to know, in detail, about the current state of this world. The guy was stunned for a few seconds by the weird request. The state of the whole world? The chief suggested to Jin, if that's the case, your best bet is to take a trip to the royal capital, a name that was pretty foreign to Jin Sidu. The royal capital? The chief explained that it's where the king lives, the guy who rules the kingdom of Sermosia. People from all over flock there, so they're guaranteed to be on top of all the news about the outside world. Us Kodama villagers go there all the time to trade our special woodworm silk. The chief nodded, encouraging Jin. The road ahead is long and full of danger, but I'm sure with the Guardian's power, it'll be no problem. But for Jin Sidu, there was one problem. Yeah, but I don't know the way. She patted the head of the little girl next to her and assigned her a task. Please let Hakama go with you as your guide. She has some business to take care of in the capital anyway. Jin was kind of curious. Business? The village chief didn't even try to hide it. I'm sure you saw it for yourself. Guardian, this kid, she can use divine power. There's an academy in the royal capital that trains people to develop that holy power. We were going to give up because of all the chaos lately, but I still hope she can get in, just like we planned. Jin was kind of surprised. So, schools still exist in this era, huh? Suddenly, another voice cut in. Hold on, wait a sec, everyone. Sax stepped up, all cocky. I'm obviously the one who deserves to guide the Guardian. The chief had this weird look on her face. What business do you even have in the royal capital? Sax shot back with a smirk. Oh, I've got business. I'm planning on joining the Holy Knights in the capital. The village chief just sighed. You couldn't even pass the academy's entrance exam. Dream on about getting in there. That really pissed Sax off. What the hell did you just say, old woman? Jin cut them off with a question. Wait, don't you just need divine power to get in? Hakama immediately corrected him. You also have to pass a written exam. Sax is basically an idiot, so he totally failed. Amidst all the shouting, Jin finally got the picture. He thought about it seriously. Holy Knights. Huh? Sounds kinda cool. I'm actually getting curious now. Elsewhere, August Anton had just received a report. A giant invading monster appeared in Kodama village. And it's already been destroyed, the girl stated firmly. It was definitely Sax. Sir. Still, he had to ask again. Is everything you're saying the truth? The girl quickly confirmed. I swear on my life, it's true. Sir, actually, I was on my way back to report to the guild master. This news made him pause. I thought, you couldn't take one of those down without a holy knight. That's why I came here on my own, without waiting for orders from the guild. Never thought someone would have already cleaned up the mess. The girl was celebrating, totally oblivious to the footsteps getting closer. Anyway, I can't believe I'd run into a holy knight in a remote place like this. What a crazy coincidence. Suddenly, a monster appeared, lunging right for her. On pure instinct, August Anton finished it off as the girl screamed in terror. What just happened made him believe her a bit more. If what you're saying is true, then this is getting real interesting. A sense of anticipation started to build in August Anton. Now, I'm actually getting hyped to meet this person. The sun climbed higher, and its soft light brought a fresh and peaceful morning to Kodama village. Jin Sidu stepped outside and took in the warm scenery, sighing, man, what a good morning. The air was so fresh and nice. In front of him were green mountains and birds flying high above. Jin couldn't believe he'd ever get to see something like this with his own eyes. He raised a hand to shield his eyes, feeling a little sad. If only Kagura could see this with me. Suddenly, Sandy came up from behind holding some clothes. Mr. Guardian. The boy glanced at his totally naked body and suggested, you should, put these on. The scene quickly changed to Jin's farewell. The village chief and a few others stood around Hakama. She looked at the little girl and said, Hakama, remember to do a good job as his guide, okay? The girl politely replied, I understand. Just then, Sax turned away, looking annoyed as he spoke up. And here I thought I'd get to learn so much by being with the Guardian. The village chief just sighed in response. First, you need to focus on your studies. Hearing that, he snapped. Shut up, old woman. Seeing this, Jin stepped in with some encouragement. You're Sax, right? Your moves yesterday weren't half bad. Sax's face suddenly turned red with surprise when he heard Jin say, I'll be waiting for you in the royal capital. Hearing that, he totally lost it, shouting with excitement, I'll definitely be there. I'm gonna study my ass off. Ignoring the screaming in the background, Hakama's father walked up to shake Jin Sidu's hand. Guardian, please take care of Hakama for me. Then he bent down, put his hand on her small shoulder, and said, Hakama, just make sure you stay healthy, okay? She replied, okay. With the goodbye said, he and Hakama waved. All right, we're heading out. And just like that, the two of them, one big, one small, set off on their journey. He and the little girl followed the stream. The sky started to turn pink. Jin stopped at a waterfall so Hakama could get a drink. The two kept moving. As the sun started to dip behind the mountains, the sky was still glowing with a warm pink sunset. The little girl couldn't help but point ahead excitedly. Night had fallen, and the two of them were resting by a campfire. Jin spoke up, how much farther to the royal capital? Hakama answered while chewing on a piece of bread. We've got about 4 more days of walking. He seemed pretty satisfied with that. Closer than I thought. The little girl hesitated before calling out, Hey, Mr. Guardian? Jin Sidu replied, What's up? Hakama asked curiously, Why are you so interested in learning about this world? He answered mysteriously, That's a secret. The girl thought to herself, A secret? Seriously. His answer left Jin lost in thought. The corrupted were never truly wiped out. That's what Kagura had said. He thought about the past, and it just confirmed it. It was true. The corrupted still exist in this era. He was lost in his thoughts again. But usually, they can only multiply in seriously polluted environments. But that place, he stared at the blazing fire in front of him and knew it. Something is definitely changing. Seeing Jin so quiet made Hakama a little nervous, and she broke his train of thought. Mr. Guardian, you look really scary right now. Hearing that, he replied, my bad. I was just thinking about something. Jin stared at the little girl, a thought forming in his mind. At least, there are still people living in this era. People who aren't controlled by the corrupted. Hakama tilted her head, confused by the calculating look in Jin Sidu's eyes. First, I need to figure out how people deal with the corrupted these days. As for the corrupted themselves, I can study them later. Hakama spoke up. By the way, what should I call you? He answered. Just call me Jin. The girl obediently repeated his name. Suddenly, someone on horseback galloped towards them from a distance. Hearing the noise, they both reflexively looked over. The newcomer immediately called out, sorry to interrupt you while you're resting. He and two other riders behind him approach, asking, could I have a few minutes? This guy had a seriously intimidating look on his face. Jin Sidu, totally confused, asks, who the hell are you? August Anton glances down at him and introduces himself. We're from the Holy Knights of the Imperial Capital. I'm the captain of Squad 7, and my name is August Anton. He blurts out, Holy Knights. In his head, he's wondering, aren't those the people that were mentioned earlier? Suddenly, Karina grits her teeth, looking pissed off. She just starts screaming, you. What's with that attitude in front of our captain? Huh. The least you could do is stand up and greet him. Then she turns to August Anton, who's getting off his horse, and declares, what a disrespectful punk. Captain, it's definitely them. Hearing that, he cuts her off. That's enough. August Anton walks up to Jin Sidu and holds out a hand. My apologies for speaking to you from horseback. Do you mind talking with me for a bit? Seeing this, he stands up and asks, kinda curious, what did she mean earlier when she said, it's definitely them? The guy doesn't answer the question, just says, on behalf of my subordinate, I apologize for her rudeness. Then August Anton starts grilling him. However, first, I need you to answer a few questions. Where did you two come from? And where are you headed next? Hakama, chewing on a snack, answers honestly. We came from Kodama village, and we're on our way to the Imperial capital. He looks pretty suspicious and thinks to himself, from Kodama village, huh? Hearing that answer, Karina gets this weird smirk on her face. She jumps off her horse and insists again, I'm still positive it's them. Karina grips her sword, all fired up, and yells, there are no birth records for any of the lower races in Kodama village. The gig is up, you low-class scum. Hearing that, Jin Sidu looks surprised and thinks, wait, they have birth records here? This country is run pretty damn tight, isn't it? But then August Anton totally kills her vibe with a random comment. It makes her pause for a second. Huh. He looks at Hakama and points out, the outfit that little girl is wearing is a specialty from the Kodama region. That's Kodama silk. Even in the capital, it's sold for a fortune because it's considered super high-end clothing. Based on that, Karina is even more certain, declaring that Kodama silk tailored for children is an extremely rare item on the market. So, her being from Kodama village is probably true. Those words leave Karina flustered, but then he suddenly whips out his sword. However, he points the sword right at Jin Sidu's face and says, you're a completely different story. August Anton sizes up his clothes, judging him. Those clothes you're wearing are weird as hell. What country are they from? He explains the current situation on the route from the village. From Kodama to the Imperial capital, there have been a series of robberies by a gang of bandits, and they used children to steal goods. August's eyes were dead serious as he laid out his theory. It sounds a lot like the situation you two have right now. They usually operate by pretending to be innocent. Hearing this, Hakama panics and yells back. It wasn't us. He replies coldly. We'll be the judge of that. The little girl grits her teeth, worried about the situation. Looking like she's made up her mind, Hakama starts to channel her divine power. August Anton, as if he knew what she was planning, scowls. He summons glowing swords that appear around Hakama and yells, don't even think about pulling anything here. The girl frowns, struggling in her current predicament. August Anton seems kinda surprised, remarking, I didn't expect you to have divine power. You seem to have a lot of potential. Jin Sidu quietly watches Hakama's situation and thinks to himself, so this is what a holy knight is like. Seeing the insane pressure the guy was giving off, he had to admit, I get it now. This guy is seriously strong. August Anton keeps up the same attitude as he interrogates Jin Sidu. Answer me. Now, where are you really from? Depending on your testimony, he then threatens. I'll decide whether or not to take your head right here and now. Jin Sidu remains silent. His expression slowly darkens at those ugly words. August Anton points the tip of his sword at Jin Sidu and demands, "Answer me. Where are you actually from? What you're about to say will decide if your head stays on your shoulders." Despite the threat, Jin Sidu doesn't flinch. He just stays dead silent, his face growing dark, his eyes as sharp as blades. August Anton's presence was just as intense, his gaze locked firmly on his opponent. Faced with the guy's sheer willpower, Jin Sidu could only let out a defeated sigh. "I'm from Kodama Village." The second she hears that name, Karina, standing behind August Anton, immediately flips out. What? That's obviously a lie. Ignoring the girl's suspicions, he seems to accept it, sheathing his sword. "I see." This leaves the girl totally confused. "Wait, Captain." August Anton asks Hakama, who's standing right in front of him, to verify the information. "You're not lying, are you?" The little girl confirms it with absolute certainty. Jin Sidu is really the guardian deity of our Kodama village. He's a little startled to hear this. A guardian deity, but he doesn't question it any further. So that's how it is. Seeing August Anton getting ready to leave, Jin Sidu is a bit surprised. "Are you done with your questions?" "Yes." He hops onto his horse, looking apologetic. "I still have business to take care of, so please forgive me for my rudeness earlier." But Karina wasn't ready to let Jin Sidu go, and she screamed, "Oh, Captain." Ignoring her yelling, August Anton asks Jin Sidu, "Are you two also heading to the capital?" "That's right. I see. Then I'm sure we'll run into each other again." He offers a gesture of goodwill. "If you run into any trouble down the line, just come find me. Consider it my apology for the incident today." Karina screams again, "Captain." August Anton starts to ride away. "Well then, I won't bother you two any longer." The girl is shocked and confused by his actions. "What the hell? Are you serious?" She calls after her captain. "Wait for me." Jin Sidu just watches them leave with a wry smile. Scene change to the squad led by August Anton. Heading toward the capital, Karina is still grilling him about what just happened. "Why did you choose to back down?" She's waving her arms and legs around as she questions him. No matter how you look at it, that lowlife was super suspicious. August Anton remains silent and doesn't answer. He's lost in his own thoughts. "A lowlife? Huh?" At that, he finally speaks up. "I'm wondering who the real weak one is here." Karina is totally confused by August Anton's words. "What do you mean?" Ria, riding beside him, agrees. He's right. This just makes the girl even more confused. "You too, Ria." She tilted her head slightly at Karina. "Seriously, you didn't notice?" Back then, Ria recalled, the power radiating from Jin Sidu was insane. "The power gap between us and that dude is freaking huge." August added, his expression grim. "I tried to make a move like 2 or 3 times, but..." He remembered the moment he pointed his sword at Jin Sidu. The sword in August Anton's hand wouldn't budge at all. That guy just stood there, hands casually in his pockets, using his power to stop the blade cold. The fight was basically over before it even started. "He countered me before I could even flinch." Ria looked at August Anton, worried. "Captain, did you use your holy power?" "I did." His admission shocked Karina. "I couldn't even activate it. I was planning to use his own momentum against him. Kinda like what I did with Hakama. I tried to use my power the same way I did with that girl, but the spirits refused to lend me their strength." Ria had to admit the exact same thing happened to me. It was only then that Karina belatedly realized what that meant. August Anton continued, "It means the difference in our holy power is just massive. To be able to pull off a feat like that." His expression darkened, realizing how serious this was. In this entire order of knights, maybe only the Grand Commander could match him. Both Karina and Ria flinched when they heard that. The girl gritted her teeth, blaming herself. I didn't feel a thing." August Anton totally understood. "It's because that guy is an anomaly. Besides, you just joined the team." The others started murmuring amongst themselves. "So, the dude who wiped out the invading monsters. Was that him?" "Most likely. Yeah." Karina still felt uneasy. She wasn't about to just give up. "Are we just gonna let them walk away like that? Isn't that, like, super dangerous?" August Anton could only sigh helplessly. "I don't know who they are, but they don't seem hostile. For now, let's just watch them from the shadows." Put that aside, he turned and reminded everyone. "All right, let's head back to the capital. We handled the monster invasion faster than we thought, but we can't be away any longer. I'll hand over the bandit case to the guild." "Understood, sir." Ria turned to advise Karina after today's incident. "You should focus more on building your character instead of just obsessing over power." August Anton walked ahead, lost in thought. The guardian deity of Kodama village. While he was thinking, his troops had already gotten close to the capital. If that guy becomes our ally. August Anton wanted to seize this chance. They could be the key to solving the biggest problem this kingdom is facing. Scene change. Jin and Hakama are also marching towards the capital. He remarked that yesterday's encounter was pretty damn interesting. He wondered if all the knights in the capital were as crazy strong as them. The girl denied it. No way. They're special cases. Hakama could totally tell who those people were. Holy Knights, they're an elite squad, handpicked from the best of the best in the Order of Knights, and those two are top tier. Among the elite legion that day, she couldn't stop praising their power, their spirit summoning speed. No, wait, I should say their spirit art is on a whole other level. Jin was a little confused. Spirit art, Hakama explained, it's the art of summoning spirits from the elements and borrowing their power. He nodded. Got it. So they call nanomachines spirits, he thought as he walked. In this era, science seems like nothing more than fantasy. Suddenly, Jin Sidu remembered Karina fiercely pointing her sword at him, yelling, "You low-class piece of trash," he sighed. And that whole low-class race thing, that helped him figure some things out. So, I guess there are a ton of different races in this era. Huh, that's right. Hakama described a few common ones. There are people who look just like fish, and others who have the form of insects. Jin was surprised. Insects? The girl explained the reason behind it. My grandma used to say it's because living environments shrank a long, long time ago. That made the races look different. Everyone's bodies gradually changed to adapt to where they lived. Jin was completely shocked by this new information. Evolution based on environmental impact? He was lost in his own thoughts. So does that mean there were survivors from 100 million years ago, and the humans from that time evolved into these forms? Well, overthinking it now won't solve anything. Jin finally understood why he was looked down on. And that's why people who didn't evolve are called low class? Yes. Hakama knew that's just how this world was. That's why society looks down on the low class, the ones who didn't adapt to the environment. Because they're seen as underdeveloped. The girl added more info about this world. Most of the people sold as slaves are from low-class races, too. Jin gritted his teeth when he heard that. So slavery still exists here. Hakama was also pissed off about this discrimination. But in reality, there's no big difference. They're just a little different from the majority, and they get treated so damn badly for it. The girl was furious. It's just so wrong. Jin smiled and praised her. You're a good kid. Suddenly, someone leaning on a stick stumbled forward, blocking their path. The boy's voice was a weak, exhausted whisper, begging for help. Help. Me. Then he collapsed. Hakama rushed over to him, worried. Hey, are you okay? She quickly ran to his side. Walking over, Jin Sidu also leaned in for a closer look. The kid was sprawled on the ground, panting heavily, his breathing ragged. His body was covered in cuts and bruises. His ears were completely human-like, with no changes at all. Those ears are weird. The kid lay on the ground, filthy and gasping for air. Jin Sidu stood there, hand on his chin, observing and thinking. He's covered in bruises. These injuries are really serious. Hakama knelt beside him, slowly helping him sit up. Are you all right? Jin held out a hand. Hang in there for a sec. I'll heal you right now. Suddenly, the boy's eyes glinted with something, and Jin froze as he spoke. Don't you faking move. One of his hands held a knife, the other wrapped around the girl's neck in a threat. You twitch, and this little girl dies. Instantly. The three of them were now in a terrifying standoff. Jin calmly looked down, thinking, so that's how it is. He looked at the boy, gritting his teeth, holding the knife to Hakama. We carelessly walked right into your trap. His eyes darted to the side, thinking this means his buddies are somewhere nearby. Up ahead, some dude's silhouette started walking over. So, turns out there is someone who can actually keep up with her. This guy shows up looking all high and mighty. You did good. It was poor Woru, showing up with his crew behind him. You followed my orders to a T. Something was clicking in Jin Sidu's head. An active camouflage technique. A diagram of a person with arrows pointing at him popped into his brain. It works by grabbing images of whatever's around it, then uses these tiny nanoparticles to make the user invisible. He just stood there, totally calm, thinking right in front of them. The only catch is that moving around screws with the camouflage, but these clowns were pros with it. Meanwhile, that other jackass still had a sword shoved in his face. A lowlife like you is wearing some pretty slick threads. Huh, where the hell are you from? The blade pressed closer to Jin Sidu's neck. Stay cool. Don't even think about moving. Hakama struggled, screaming from the other side. Sir Jin. But the guy just kept taunting him. You know exactly what'll happen if you try any funny business, don't you? Across the way, the kid was clutching her stomach, her power flaring up. He yelled out, Hakama. That finally made her get a grip. Then Jin spoke up. That kind of power. It was never meant to be used on people. You get that, don't you? The girl just screamed, totally terrified. But the dude with the sword, he kept it pointed at Jin but turned his head. We hit the jackpot, boss. I can't believe that little brat has divine power. One of his cronies standing nearby piped up, "You can use it too, right?" Jin just looked over and said, "Who knows?" The guy shot back, pissed. "The hell you say?" Next thing you know, the guy slams his foot right into Jin Sidu's gut. He crumpled to the ground with a grunt. "Sir Jin." But the bastard just kept his boot on him. "Don't get so damn cocky. You filthy lowlife." The other guy standing in front of him said, "Careful, you don't damage the goods." The first guy just grimaced and shot back. "Whatever. A bottom feeder like him isn't gonna fetch much money anyway." The guy wasn't done talking. But what if they have divine power? No way a bunch of worthless scum could ever get their hands on something like that. Hakama thought to herself, "These guys." Her face was just filled with dread. This has to be the gang of bandits that Holy Knight was talking about. Human traffickers. The dude started walking toward her, power swirling in his hand. "All right now, time for a little nap." A thought raced through her mind. If we just let them catch us like this. The hand, glowing with power, got right in Hakama's face, scaring the hell out of her. "We're both going to be sold off as slaves." Then, everything slowly went black. Jin was right there in front of her. "Hakama, wake up." "Hey, Hakama." She slowly answered, "Sir Jin." Then she shot up, terrified. His solid frame was sitting right next to her. "You hurt anywhere?" She looked over at him. I'm okay." But the real shocker was that they were locked in iron cages, and outside, there were tons of other victims. "Where the hell are we?" Jin Sidu just looked away. "This is the den of the guys who jumped us." Looking out at the other victims in their cages, it looked like everyone else they'd nabbed was being held here too. Some of the people in there were just skin and bones, and there was this poor girl with blue hair just hugging herself, looking so weak. The two of them just sat there, totally freaked out. Hakama looked over at him. Why are you naked?" Jin looked down, his eyes closed. "They stripped me. Said my clothes were too weird. Lucky for me, they left my boxers." She just sat there, stunned. "You don't seem very worried about that, do you?" He just looked the other way. I spent most of my last life naked anyway." Her innocent face just stared at him. "Okay, putting that aside, why didn't you fight back before?" Jin just sat there quietly, listening to her. "With your strength, you could have wiped the floor with them." "Easy, Sir Jin." Just then, a guard opened the door and walked in with that kid from before. "Let's just get this over with." The two of them turned to see the kid's grimy figure handing them 2 pieces of bread. "So you've been awake this whole time, huh?" Hakama shot to her feet, grabbing the iron bars and screaming, "You." The kid said, "I don't care if you hate my guts." Then he just casually stood there looking down at them. "Because I never expected you to forgive me anyway." Hakama could only grit her teeth and cling to the bars. But then Jin Sidu spoke up, getting the kid's attention. "Wow, that's surprisingly merciful of you." The kid looked down, shocked. "Merciful." Jin shot back, a real villain. He looked up at the ceiling like he was daydreaming, would never waste their time, wondering if they're hated or forgiven or any of that crap. Then he slowly got to his feet, grabbing both of their attention. "All right, time to get started." Jin grabbed the iron bars of the cage. The kid totally freaked. To the boy's absolute shock, Jin was now standing in a hole he'd ripped open like it was nothing. Hakama watched from behind as he dusted off his hands. "I was waiting patiently for you. No one's gonna overhear our little chat here." The kid shot back. "Waiting for me?" The kid's face went pale when he heard that. "So, tell me, where are they keeping the person who's most important to you right now?" The kid lowered his head, cautious. How? How did you know that?" Jin slowly stepped out, power glowing in his hand. It was just a hunch. The kid was totally speechless at the power radiating off him. "She actually had me fooled at first, you know? 'Cause those bruises on her were the real deal." The kid looked shocked, staring at the bruises Jin Sidu was talking about. But even the worst scumbags out there wouldn't beat up their own partner that badly just to use them. So I figured out what was really going on pretty quick. The kid was amazed at how he'd seen through it all. I realized they were threatening her, forcing her to do whatever they wanted. The kid's hands started shaking as he clasped them together in fear. He slowly started to talk. "My little brother, they took him." He remembered the moment they were torn apart, the pain of it all. "And my parents," he screamed, his voice full of rage. "Those bastards murdered both of them." Tears streamed down his face as he clutched his shirt. "So I have to protect my little brother, no matter what it takes." Hakama, standing behind them, saw Jin clench his fist as he listened. "That's the only reason I did it." A terrifying look crossed Jin's face as he heard about their crimes. What a bunch of garbage. The girl beside him looked up at him. "So, did you let those thugs capture you on purpose?" "To save them," he answered. "That was part of the plan." But then he added, "Bad guys are stubborn and persistent. They're just like tough grease stains." Another voice chimed in, "Grease stains? It was the guard standing by the door. If even one of these scumbags gets away, they'll just multiply and cause more chaos. Those voices totally freaked the guy out, making him whip his head around. So, yeah, time to wipe him out. Jin just kicks the damn door in, sending it and the dude flying. He grabs onto the busted frame he just made. His grip is tight, his face is pure rage. You gotta pull weeds out by the root, leave nothing behind. Total, brutal annihilation. That's the only way. When it comes to scum, trust me, I know him better than anyone. Flashback to 1,000,000,000 years ago, in some bustling city. There's little Jin Sidu, looking all grimy and beat up. He's staring at the news, watching some big shot drug lord get busted. And me? I was the same way. Always hungry for some real justice. A car pulls up behind him while he's just standing there. Someone walks up right behind Jin Sidu. But I figured it out pretty quick, watching him just casually glance over. This world still needs justice. So you got these 3 psycho thugs standing here. Honestly, they're just the bottom of the barrel trash of humanity. And they're popping up everywhere. The main dude, cigarette hanging from his lips, hoists Jin up. Man, if I could have just lived a normal life, that would have been the dream. But his face was just blank. The world I grew up in wouldn't let me have that normal life. He's still just hanging there in the dude's grip. So, yeah, it didn't take long. Jin just lifts a hand and snap breaks the guy's arms sideways. I absolutely crush them. Then he just stomps on the dude's stomach, grinding his heel in with zero mercy. Even now that he's older, he's still a hard ass, destroying all of them. Jin's just chilling on a pile of bodies he made. And me? I just kept on wiping the floor with these scumbags. Suddenly, someone's standing in front of him, right on top of his mountain of people. And then, one day, someone said to me, that made him flinch and scowl. Kagura reaches out her hand, like she's trying to grab him. You were born in the wrong world. Back to where we left off. Jin Sidu's just dragging some guy across the floor. 2 guards are gritting their teeth, backing up and stuttering. Stop right there. A ton of soldiers are already down for the count. What the hell do you want? The guy yells, even as more of his buddies get wrecked. How the hell did you even get in here? Jin Sidu just gives them this creepy-ass smile, then yeets a guy straight at them. The dude's totally stunned, catching the body in disbelief. Jin rushes in, moving fast, ready to strike. But the guard just stands there, frozen in fear, watching as Jin Sidu's fist caves a guy's face in while someone yells from behind. You bastard! Who the hell are you? The guy's on the floor, freaking out, holding his fallen teammate. Meanwhile, the people locked up in the iron cages are finally free. Poor Woro looks super worried. That scream belonged to her. She whips around, all scared, and asks, seriously, what kind of person is your friend? A god or something? Hakama just turns and calmly replies, he's a guardian deity. Yeah, a real god. The little girl pipes up, looking up all confident. Just let Mr. Jin Sidu handle it. He'll sort it all out, the girl says, looking back as they're about to leave. For now, just do exactly what Mr. Jin Sidu told us. Get everyone out of here. Poor Woru looks worried, thinking, are we actually going to make it out of this alive? She grits her teeth, filled with hate, just thinking about that guy. But that dude, he's got an insane amount of holy power. There's no way in hell our guy can beat him with just brute strength. The guy's cowering on the floor, totally terrified. Wait. Jin grabs some other dude's head right in front of him. So, what is it you're after? Money, right? The guy lets out this pathetic, nervous laugh. No. He points right at the little boy in the iron cage. Or maybe, you want slaves? Hearing the crap makes Jin flash back to how pathetic he was as a kid. If that's what you want, I'll give you as many as you like. Jin just gives him a sideways glance, says nothing, and then shoves the dude to the ground so hard he starts leaking red syrup. You done saying your last words? The guy's just sitting there, sweating bullets, thinking, what the hell is going on? He looks at Jin, completely terrified. The guy's thinking, why isn't my holy magic doing jack squat? Jin takes another menacing step closer. The dude grits his teeth, thinking, what kind of messed up power is this guy packing? As he gets closer, Jin just says, you're just a second-rate villain. The guy's just listening, totally frozen. The real pros, they would have bailed instantly. Jin looks down, scowling. But losers like you always start by running your mouth, totally convinced you're gonna win. The next words just make the guy snap. And then, the second you start losing, you start begging like a little baby. The guy's thinking, damn it. Then he just bolts, running for his life. If this is how it's gonna be, I've got no other choice. He screams, slamming a switch down. It's not over. This isn't over yet, but he's got this twisted smirk on his face as a door slams shut and some monster appears behind it. Jin's just standing there, shocked, but the other guy is still acting all high and mighty. You know, I got this thing special order for someone. This giant, terrifying monster takes a heavy step forward. Well, if talking nicely doesn't work, I guess this is it, he says with a big, sick smile. I'm gonna make you. The monster in front of Jin Sidu opens its mouth and just blasts out this purple energy beam, while the guy finishes his sentence, totally pathetic and broken. Then it swings an arm out. Jin Sidu warily looks up, crossing his arms over his head as the thing winds up for a punch. Suddenly, the bad guy just freezes. Huh? Turns out, Jin just casually blocked the monster's massive punch with his arms. See, I was just born with an insane body, he says, still holding off the attack while looking back. Compared to normal people, I guess I just have way more muscle fibers. Then Jin Sidu just shoves the thing straight up. Welp, he says, leaping up with blue energy crackling around his arm. I don't go easy on scum who've lost their way. As he throws his hand out, a flash of bright blue energy erupts. And yeah, I can use holy power, too. Instantly, the monster melts into a puddle all over the floor, which freaks the guy out completely. The next second, Jin Sidu is standing right in front of him. The dude's thinking, he can use holy power too? Then Jin speaks, his face totally blank. So, what's your next move? Huh. The guy's face is drenched in sweat, he can't even speak, just clasping his shaking hands together. See, could you maybe just look the other way and let me go this one time? Jin doesn't say a word, just decks the guy so hard his face gets rearranged. Can't do that. Jin says, putting on his jacket. All right. He just turns and walks away, leaving the guy sitting there all busted up. He thinks to himself, glad I got my clothes back. Then he looks over at the iron cage with the 4 kids. Hey, sorry, but you guys are gonna have to hang on a little longer. Jin Sidu's words were like a ray of hope for the 4 kids. I'll get all of you out of this dump soon. He stands at a desk, picking up a bunch of files. But before that, there's some stuff I need to look into. It's all for nothing if I can't dig up some dirt on them. He popped open a drawer and found a bunch of papers. Whoa, he sat down at the desk, grabbed the paper, and thought, this looks sketchy as hell. As some weird-ass text appeared on the paper, Jin Sidu smirked. I get it now. But like, a second later, he was totally confused reading it. What the hell is this even supposed to be? I can't make out a single word. He stood there, glancing at the dude sprawled on the ground. Guess I'll have to get Hakama to teach me how to read the language of this era. Then he crouched down and touched the goo from the monster. Still, what the hell are they planning to do after capturing these corrupted freaks? The moment he touched it, waves of power flared up. All right, time to find out the truth. With all these digital screens popping up, he thought, I'll hack into the cameras from the nanos floating around here. Jin Sidu sat there, looking down, thinking any footage from the last week has got to be stored in here. He looked up. His gaze was straight up terrifying. He remembered the other day in that monster's pen. The lackey stood behind the boss, asking, But sir, what are you going to do with a haul this big? The boss shot back. That's none of your damn business. He flashed a creepy-ass smile. But, I guess I'll let you in on a little secret. He looked up, radiating pure danger. Real soon, something very interesting is going to happen in this country. Back in the present, Jin stood in front of the screen, scowling. The next day, in some old-school village, all the freed people were lined up. Hakama and poor Woru were there too, just looking around. Suddenly, she gasped when she saw something. Nino came running from Jin Sidu's side when she called out, Nino, sis. The 2 sisters just ran into each other's arms. A total mess. As they hugged tight, poor Woru's eyes were filled with tears. Thank God. She grabbed her sister's hand and looked up at him. Sir, I can't thank you enough. He stood in front of them and was like, I'm no god or anything, so don't sweat it. Then Jin Sidu glanced to the side. By the way, he asked, looking at the people being led away in a line, are those guys rounding up the bandits working for the local lord? Hakama, next to him, replied, no, they're from the association. I called them. They started talking about Padaraku, the guy over there who's the president of this town's association. Oh really? Jin asked. Just then, the guy turned to look, then walked over to them. Are you the one who took care of this mess? Jin replied, yeah. Padaraku and his men immediately put their hands up and bowed. My name is Padaraku, president of the association, and I want to give you my deepest thanks for your help. Then he glanced up, and seeing Jin standing there got him thinking. To take on that many enemies without a single scratch. He looks like he's from some low-level race. But my gut is screaming that there's no way this guy is just some nobody. Then he finally spoke up. Lately, we've been getting a ton of reports about the damage caused by all this. The association has been swamped with requests to wipe out this bandit crew. Jin just stood there and replied. So the local lord wasn't the one who sent his guys to bust them. Huh. Padaraku put his hands on his hips. You've got to be kidding me. A lord doesn't have that kind of power. A flashback of him kneeling before his superior appeared as he explained. The only people with the authority to handle crimes like this are members of the association who swore an oath of loyalty to the king. He held out a hand as he continued. Even if the lord of this region, Lord Sappy, broke the law, we'd still be required to report him to the king. Not that something like that would ever happen, of course. Jin put a hand to his chin, thinking, if I had to explain it in terms from 100 million years ago, the lord is like a mayor. And the association is basically the police. His head was filled with some dark thoughts about the guy. Anyway, he then handed the guy a scroll. This is some kind of document I got off one of those goons. Think you can use it? The second Pataraku opened it. He was floored. This is a list of everyone who made under-the-table deals with the bandits. As he kept reading, he said, with this, we can round up every single one of them at once. Jin asked, so, is the local lord's name on there? Jin's brow furrowed when he heard the answer. Don't tell me you took my earlier joke seriously. Of course, he's not on it. Jin thought to himself, I get it. This dude is a next-level villain. He glanced over at confused Porwaru, thinking, there's not much I can do about it right now. More importantly, Jin Sidu put his hand on Porwaru's sister's head and turned to the president. What's going to happen to the slaves who were freed? What's their future look like? Pataraku answered right away. For anyone with a missing person report filed or whose identity we can confirm, the association will take full responsibility for getting them back home. The two kids just stood there, their heads hung low, looking bummed. But for anyone who doesn't fit that description, there's really nothing we can do for them. Jin stood there thinking, if I remember right, these two lost both their parents. He finally spoke up. Seriously, you don't have any kind of care facilities here? Pataraku glanced away. None at all. The best we can do is act as a middleman to help them find jobs. But looking over at the two poor kids, he added, since these two are from a low-level race, I'm afraid finding work for them is going to be a real uphill battle. Jin hung his head and sighed. He really wanted to help them out, but the two kids just looked at each other. He watched them, lost in thought. If no one's willing to hire them, finding a job is going to be impossible. Then suddenly, something clicked for Jin. No, wait a sec. Then he turned to the two kids. If there was a place where you both could work, would you be willing to go there? Porwaru immediately answered, yes. We would. Do you? Do you already have a place in mind? Jin smirked. I do. He remembered what August told him. If you ever run into trouble, just come find me. Jin Sidu's face looked kind of terrifying. I've got the perfect place for you too. The next day, at the August Anton estate, in the capital of the Kermia Kingdom, August Anton's eyes were wide with alarm. Rhea, riding behind him, asked, what's wrong? Sitting on his horse up front, he said, It's nothing. I just suddenly got a chill down my spine. After that, he got off his horse. August Anton stood beside his ride and looked out. This is far enough. He stood before his army. The long-ass expedition is finally over. Thanks, everyone. Go crash for the day. Then he strolled into the building. All the maids bowed their heads at the same time. Welcome back, Master August Anton. He turned to his butler. Any new reports? The old guy looked back at some maid who was totally freaking out behind him. August Anton closed his eyes. What's going on? The butler next to him bowed his head. So sorry to bug you when you're this wiped out, sir. But he just glanced over. Don't sweat it. The old guy looked totally stressed, and August just looked away. Up above, some girl was watching the two of them walk away. It was Milia, just standing there with her arms crossed, watching. August Anton waved a hand. All right, I get it. Thanks for the report. The butler bowed his head. Of course, sir. Then he put a hand to his head and sighed. Man, this is way worse than I thought. He remembered that monster that was messing up people in the city. An invader? Right here in the capital? How the hell did it even get in here? August Anton's expression was scary as hell. No, someone had to have let it in on purpose. He thought about that one campus. The sketchiest thing is how they're so obsessed with keeping anyone who doesn't belong out of Hanek's academy. Anyway, that moment with Jin Sidu and those three kids comes to mind. I need to find allies, fast. 3 days had passed since the whole bandit-crushing mission. Jin was walking with Porwaru, her little bro, and Hakama. She turned to him, scowling. You sure there's actually a job for someone like me in this capital city? He glanced at her. Don't sweat it. Jin looked down at her. You already know how to read and write, right? Porwaru, you're even good with numbers. You'll totally find something, he added. Just trust your own skills. That made her light up and look at him. Yeah, okay. Suddenly, a voice called out, Jin. Look. Hakama was pointing at a castle way off in the distance. We're here. Jin's face was pure shock as the four of them gazed down at the awesome kingdom from up high. Is this really the kingdom's capital? The sky here looked like it was dyed pink. All four of them were stunned, especially poor Waro. Whoa, this place looks so crowded and lively. Hakama pointed to a stall. The capital relies a ton on imported goods, so stuff from all over the place ends up here. She pictured all the items. The people from Kodama village come all the way here to sell their local stuff too. Jin Sidu glanced at her. Yeah, I've heard that before. He looked over at some weird-looking people nearby. Hey, I get it. This place is pretty wild. An insect tribe. He checked out 2 other kinds of people. Damn, so many different races and cultures all packed in here. No wonder things evolve in such a unique way. Then he looked over at a stall. Looks like all this stuff is imported straight from the neighboring country. This city's also kept super clean, and the security seems pretty tight. Then, Jin's eyes darted towards something. And yet, over there, some rich-looking dude is standing in front of a bunch of homeless people. He frowned. Guess every era's got its own brand of messed up problems. Milia had somehow appeared behind him while he was looking down at Hakama. When do you start at the academy? The kid looked up. Next week. She just stood there, watching them walk off as he replied. So we still got a little time to get ready. The kid answered right away. Yeah, enrollment happens right after the exams are done. She thought to herself, she wants to get into Hanek's academy, huh? She covered her mouth with a fan, side-eyeing a brat like that, with a low-class race dude, no less. That night, they showed up at a house with all its lights on. In the room, poor Waru's little brother and Hakama were jumping on the bed like total psychos. Jin Sidu sat on the bed, too. Finally, a decent place to crash. The girl lying next to him replied, yeah, totally. He stood there, hand on his mouth, thinking. Okay, so we finally made it to our destination. The capital. What's my next move? He held a bag of gold coins in his hand. No matter what, I'm gonna need cash to survive in this era. Suddenly, Hakama walked up and balanced the money bag on her head, which got him thinking. Even with the reward money from wiping out those bandits, this cash isn't gonna last forever. Oh, and I still have to split some of this with the former slaves. An image of poor Waru, exhausted from watching her brother, popped into his head. Plus, I gotta figure out how to find a stable job for these 2. Thinking of August, he figured. Meeting up with that guy would be the quickest way to solve this. But without an introduction, it's gonna be a pain in the ass to meet him right away. Jin put a hand to his chin, his eyes darting to the side, then he got off the bed. Maybe I should start by doing a deep dive on these corrupted things in this era. He remembered those thugs from the other day, especially since there are people plotting to use them for their own twisted schemes. Jin Sidu stood at the window, lost in thought. These corrupted are a serious freaking menace. There's no way I can just let them run wild. He glanced down at the bustling scene below. I'll be damned if I let that horrifying era repeat itself. Jin suddenly turned to Hakama. Hey, what do people in this country do when they want to look something up or research a topic? The kid was lying on the bed with her chin in her hands. They go find someone to ask, get a tutor, or read some books. Then she just flopped back onto the bed. But books are crazy expensive here. Back in Kodama village, we had to share the few books we were lucky enough to even have. Hakama looked up. But the capital has a huge library. You can definitely go there to look stuff up. Jin Sidu put a hand to his mouth. They have a library here? Then he looked up, thinking, well, that's super convenient. I'll definitely make good use of it. Who knows, I might even find a clue about that research facility Kagura left behind. Some pink-haired girl said, I'm so sorry, but you're not allowed to use the facilities here. The 4 of them just stared at her, totally confused. Because books are considered national property, we can't just let anyone waltz in here. She kept going. Access is restricted to students with proven abilities recognized by the academy, the faculty, and any nobles living in the capital. That's it. Jin sighed. Oh, I see. Hakama, standing next to him, deadpanned. Besides, you can't even read. So, it suddenly hit Jin. Oh, right, I still can't read. Remembering when Hakama and poor Waru trained him in the forest. Everyone's been trying to teach him stuff lately, but it's still going to take a while before he can master it. He buried his face in his hands and sighed, thinking, what the hell am I supposed to do now? But behind him, 2 guys in hoods were talking. Great, it's them, isn't it? The other dude pointed and said, the low-class species with those brats, that's them. Suddenly, a voice cut through, making him turn around. Got a second? The moment he turned, a fist came flying at him, but Jin just casually caught the punch, his face turning way scarier. A second? You guys have a pretty special way of saying hello, huh? The guy was still smiling wide, and here I thought the security around here was actually good. A golden light flared up between their clasped hands. Then Jin Sidu let go, and the other guy's hand shot up, glowing with that same golden light. The light shot up into the sky, freaking everyone out, but the guy just kept smiling and held out his hand. You're dead wrong, but hey, your instincts are sharp, buddy. Poor Waru's little brother held onto her tightly as she thought in terror. Are they seriously using divine power right in the middle of the city? Jin Sidu just stood there and asked, mind telling me what your purpose is? The guy held out his hand and replied, let's just say a certain someone finds you guys to be a real eyesore. A thought crossed Jin's mind. So, someone hired these clowns. He put a hand on his chin, thinking, whatever, this is actually working out perfectly for me. The two guys just laughed, totally pleased with themselves. If you get lost and disappear from this capital right now, you won't have to worry about being threatened every single day. Got it, he shot back. When the situation gets actually dangerous, I'll consider it. The guy didn't seem to care and threw another punch, but Jin Sidu's hand clamped down hard on his wrist. The guy's face went pale. Jin then casually flipped him, slamming him flat on the ground. It looked like it hurt enough to make his head pop off. The other guy's hand was still trapped by that golden energy. You son of a bitch, the guy screamed, blasting fire from behind Jin Sidu, who was seemingly swallowed by the flames. This made the attacker grin. But he didn't get to celebrate for long before Jin walked out of the smoke and reached for him. With one hand, Jin Sidu grabbed him by the collar. He effortlessly lifted the dude with one hand as his body trembled uncontrollably. If you really want to be a threat, come back when you're stronger. He raised his fist, ready to punch. But that's only if you ever have the guts to challenge me again. The guy, dangling in the air, thought in a panic, this dude. Isn't he supposed to be some low-class species? Just as they were about to go at it, a loud scream came from across the way. That's enough. All of you, freeze. Don't move. Karina showed up, looking seriously annoyed. For real, can't even get some peace on my day off. You dare start a brawl in the middle of the street. They all just stared at the girl who was pointing her sword and yelling at them. I'm throwing all of you in jail. So get ready, she screamed. Jin Sidu dropped the guy with a thud and turned to look. Looks like causing a little chaos finally paid off. Karina pointed a shaky finger at him. You're that low-class species from the other day, aren't you? Karina pointed right in his face and yelled, it's you again. That trash tier race from the other day. You could see the disgust all over her face. Then, Karina aimed her spear right at Jin Sidu. You've got some serious nerve, showing up in the capital and immediately starting trouble. She was still acting all high and mighty, declaring, I guess a low class will always be a low class. Don't you know your place? There are things you can do and things you can't. But then, someone else cut in. The girl hesitantly started explaining everything. Sorry, to interrupt for a second. I was just passing by and saw the whole thing. These guys were actually the ones who got ambushed. Her words made Karina's face go blank. I'd say their actions were purely in self-defense. A moment later, a familiar voice piped up. Well now, he looks awfully familiar. Karina glanced at the guy on the ground, then turned to ask, and you two, you're students from Hannes Academy, aren't you? After a bit of talking, she sighed and put a hand on her forehead. Just as I suspected. I hope that young lady isn't involved in this. Hearing that, Jin wondered, what young lady? Karina ordered her subordinates while replying, hurry and take them away. This is our internal business, you don't need to worry about it. Jin was surprised by how she handled it. So Holy Knights have to do patrols, too? I thought that was the guild's job. The girl replied, acting all cold. This capital is huge. We're just helping out to maintain public order, but her inner thoughts totally betrayed her. To be honest, I was just passing by while looking for snacks. Suddenly, her gaze turned serious. Still, Karina secretly sized him up. This guy's power is seriously the real deal. Those academy kids weren't exactly weaklings, either. Then she turned to leave, basically telling them to get lost. All right, fine. Just try not to cause any more trouble in the capital. Suddenly, Jin shouted for her to come back. Wait, if it's not a bother, I want you to take me somewhere. Karina turned her head, confused. You want me to take you somewhere? The sky had already turned dark. At that moment, in August Anton's mansion, Jin sat on a chair and said with total sincerity, hire us. His words made August's face go slack. Didn't you tell me to come find you if I needed help? He voiced his own question. It seems like you have more people with you than the last time we met. Jin nonchalantly answered the question. Something unexpected just came up. He slowly explained everything. We ran into that group of bandits you warned me about. I saw they were being held captive, so I stepped in to rescue them. August Anton looked worried and asked for more info. What about the bandits? Hearing this, Jin explained exactly what he'd done. I beat the crap out of them. After that, I handed the rest over for the guild to handle. Hearing this, he could only say, I see. Meanwhile, a doubt popped into August Anton's mind. Did he really take them all down by himself? Thinking this, he asked, why did you decide to help these girls? Jin Sidu calmly talked to him. They don't have any family left. They're what you people call low class. His gaze softened as he looked at the two kids beside him. I figured the least I could do was try to find them a job. August Anton sounded a bit skeptical. I don't think you have any responsibility to take care of them. Jin replied calmly. It's just my principle of doing things. I'm dead serious about what I say. No matter the reason, I save their lives, and I don't do things halfway.
I'll see this through to the end. August looked kinda shocked to hear that. Meanwhile, poor Waru and the boy were just incredibly grateful. After thinking it over, he finally nodded.
Fine. The two of them can stay and work right here at the mansion. She got all excited and asked again just to be sure. For real? But of course, August Anton had his own angle. However, I have one condition. His voice was slow and deliberate. I want you to take on the role of an instructor. Jin Sidu was completely floored by this. An instructor? Yep. A little later, poor Waru and the boy had changed into their work clothes. Jin Sidu nodded, satisfied with how they looked. Heh, they clean up pretty nice. She bowed respectfully to August, filled with gratitude. Sir August Anton, we can't thank you enough. Seeing that, he replied gently, there's no need for thanks. Then, August Anton turned to his servants and gave his orders. I'm entrusting their training to you too. And I expect zero discrimination just because they're from the lower class. The two of them immediately snapped to it, as you command. Before they left, poor Waru and the boy waved to Jin Sidu. Thank you so much, sir. On the road, he cut right to the chase. So, what's the deal? This instructor gig, you got some ulterior motive, don't you? August just kept leading the way, answering calmly. You're sharp. That'll be useful for the job. His eyes suddenly got dead serious. Look, I don't know anything about your background, but I'm taking a leap of faith that you're the right person for this. What August Anton really wanted to ask was, I need you to conduct an undercover investigation inside Hannes Academy. Hearing that, Jin's expression turned grim. What the hell is going on? He slowly revealed a bombshell of a secret. Right now, this kingdom is a target for a whole bunch of factions fighting for power. Jin heard this and asked, confused, wait, isn't there a king ruling this place or something? At that question, August Anton's face darkened with sorrow. The king is gravely ill, and he doesn't have much time left. Because of that, a secret war for the throne has already started in the shadows. Not only that, he pointed out another problem. There are those with absolutely no right to the throne who are plotting to take over this kingdom. August Anton's hand clenched into a fist, his voice thick with rage. They're using illegal invaders and dragging innocent people into their sick and twisted schemes. Hearing the whole story, something clicked for Jin. I get it. So it's not just that scumbag local lord we have to worry about. His voice rang out, sharp and clear. Dangerous people like that are hiding out and operating in secret right here in the capital. We need to find their base of operations. And fast. Jin Sidu immediately finished the thought. And the most suspicious place is Hannes Academy, right? He didn't deny it, exactly. By now, August Anton was standing in front of a door. He knocked. I'm coming in. As he opened it, he introduced Jin. She will be your guide inside the academy. Inside the room, someone had been sitting there waiting. Let me introduce you. This is my younger sister, who's currently a student at Hannes, Milia Anton. August Anton raised a hand to introduce him to her. Milia, this is, suddenly. Milia shot to her feet, cutting him off. Brother. She glared at them with total arrogance. Don't tell me you're actually planning to give the secret mission you mentioned to. This lowlife, he immediately snapped back at her. Milia, that is incredibly rude. But Milia's attitude was fierce. What's rude about it? Isn't the very existence of this kind of trash the real insult? She gently fanned herself, looking between the two of them. I won't even comment on that peasant woman, but this job can't be entrusted to some common piece of trash. Jin watched the whole thing and found it kinda amusing. What a prejudiced little princess. I almost feel bad for her brother, August Anton. I sincerely apologize. Please, don't pay any attention to what she said. Karina sidled up and whispered to him. The young mistress may be talented, but she has a deep-seated hatred for anyone from the lower class. After hearing that, Jin just gave his 2 cents. I see. So you're not much different from her, are you? Just then, Milia cut in, fanning herself. Don't you get it, brother? She started listing her reasons. This isn't just a simple infiltration mission. He also has to fulfill all the responsibilities of an actual instructor. And finally, Milia went in for the kill. I refuse to believe a lowlife is capable of teaching anyone, unless he actually has the necessary qualifications. Just then, Hakama totally exposed him. Jin can't even read. That little truth bomb made him cringe. Dude, you don't have to announce it. She immediately latched onto it. Read. Milia was instantly disgusted by his level. Then he's completely unqualified. End of discussion. Suddenly, another voice cut in. But the girl spoke her mind with total sincerity. There are many things that only Jin can teach. Jin is truly more amazing than any of us. That shut her up. She sized Jin up again, carefully. After a moment, Milia arrogantly brushed past him. Humph. Well, I suppose he has enough brute strength to beat the students into submission. Before she left, her eyes were like ice as she warned him. But it takes more than just brute force to be a teacher. And with that, Milia slammed the door on her way out. Karina warily rubbed her head and was the first to speak. About those students on the road earlier. I had a feeling the young mistress was the one behind them. August Anton looked even more helpless. I am truly sorry. I will absolutely have a serious talk with her. Jin was totally understanding about it. Don't worry about it. He quickly changed the subject back to the mission. Anyway, as an instructor, what subject am I supposed to be teaching? August answered immediately, spirit arts. He calmly laid out what he knew. Based on my assessment, you're an expert in spirit arts. Am I wrong? Jin was quiet for a second, then finally spoke. What part of spirit arts should I teach? He replied instantly, just the basics will be enough. August Anton listed the required spirit arts, ignition, discharge, freezing, and healing. If you can perform even 2 of these 4 basic techniques, you'll meet the requirements. He deadpanned, just to tick him off. That's it. It's that simple. And it totally worked. August just stared at him blankly and asked, what do you mean? That's it. August Anton asked in disbelief, don't tell me you can use those special spirit arts that only a handful of people can master. A strange phrase suddenly caught Jin's attention. Special spirit arts. After mulling it over, it clicked. Wait a sec. So that robber was actually considered some kind of elite in this era? Heh, Jin thought, a smirk playing on his lips. This is getting interesting. In the end, he made up his mind. All right, fine. I guess I'll just have to shake up the common sense of this era a little. And just like that, a new semester was about to begin. A week passed, and the entrance exam day at Hannes Academy was buzzing with energy. The campus was packed with loud and rowdy applicants. Among them was Hakama, who was also taking the exam. She looked totally zoned in. Rudd enthusiastically welcomed him and Jin Sidu onto the school grounds. Well, it's an honor to have you personally escorting them here. He was laying it on thick, seeing August Anton in the ranks of the Holy Knights. I guess Unit 7 must be pretty swamped, huh? Don't worry about it. It was just our turn to handle the mission. Hearing that from behind, Jin felt a flicker of doubt. Our turn? August Anton didn't hide anything and calmly explained it to him. Once a year, the Holy Knights take turns selecting a member to serve as a special instructor for this academy. And this year, that responsibility fell to Unit 7. I see. His words made Jin even more pensive. Am I really cut out for this? Jin was deep in thought. His contemplation didn't escape Rudman, who turned and caught his gaze. Rudman led the 2 of them to a room and invited them in. This way. He opened the door and introduced the person inside to them. The headmistress and the board of directors are waiting for you. Inside the room, the headmistress was staring at them with a sinister look in her eyes. August Anton stepped inside and bowed respectfully to her. It's been a long time, headmistress. The headmistress let out a faint smile, praising August Anton's talent. Ever since you graduated as the top student, you quickly became a pretty outstanding knight in such a short time, didn't you? While those 2 were chatting, Jin Sidu was constantly observing the room. Thank you for agreeing to help us. It's my duty, ma'am. The headmistress leaned back in her chair and spoke in a flat tone. I've heard some rumors, you know. August Anton heard her veiled words, but his expression didn't change. Not only are you dealing with issues regarding spirit arts, but you've also been dragged into disputes between internal factions. Her voice was calm, but it was a clear threat. I understand that you can't spare too many people, because everyone is so busy. The headmistress shot a sharp look forward, her words dripping with criticism. However, that doesn't mean you have the right to be disrespectful in this academy. Turns out, the person she'd been talking about this whole time was Jin Sidu. It has to be. Don't tell me you're letting this guy be an instructor here. The other 3 all gave Jin a nasty look. Seeing their attitude, Jin could only sigh in resignation. Please, don't worry. August Anton once again bowed and stood up for Jin Sidu. His abilities far surpass everyone else in my Unit 7. Even he had to acknowledge Jin Sidu's talent, at least when it came to actual combat skills. After a moment of silence, the headmistress finally made a decision. If you're so sure, then I'll take your word for it for now. Just as the headmistress was stressing over this, Jita, who was beside her, spoke up. But how are we supposed to handle this? Headmistress, I strongly object. He pointed a finger right at Jin Sidu's face and spewed his insults. In the entire history of this sacred academy, there has never been a precedent for allowing an inferior race to teach a class. Jita, thinking he was on some kind of high horse, was dead set against it. This position is not a place for some low-class scum. Are you trying to insult our academy? His words seemed to sway the headmistress a bit. She then turned to Rudman for his opinion. Sir Jita has spoken his mind. What about you, Sir Rudman? What's your take on this? Rudman pretended to think it over before giving his answer. I have to agree with him. Most of our students come from noble families. He presented his opinion as if he were speaking for the entire student body. If we let some nobody from a lower class teach them, we'll definitely face fierce resistance from both the students and the faculty. The headmistress seemed satisfied after hearing that. She even faked a helpless sigh to make her point. You see, my thoughts are basically the same as theirs. But then, the headmistress gave Jin an opening. Let's hear what he has to say for himself. Hearing this, Jin slowly stepped forward. He bowed respectfully to the headmistress and introduced himself. My apologies for the late introduction. I'm from Kodama Village. My name is Jin Sidu. Seeing Jin's attitude, the headmistress was secretly sizing him up. Even after being insulted so badly, he's staying weirdly calm. I completely understand all of your concerns. Jin Sidu replied, his sharp eyes filled with confidence. However, I'd like to ask a small question. His question made Jita and Rudman freeze. Am I unqualified to be an instructor just because I'm from an inferior race? Or is it because I don't have the skills? Even the headmistress was now focused, wanting to hear Jin Sidu's question. The headmistress put on a noble act, using fancy words to explain. Obviously, it's the latter. As long as you have real skill, nothing else matters. At the same time, she laid down a challenge for Jin. So, can you prove your abilities? August Anton seized the opportunity and made a suggestion. If that's the case, why don't we test him a little? Everyone headed out to the training grounds together. On the spirit arts training field of Hannes Academy, Jita stood facing Jin and began to explain. Since today is the entrance exam, there are almost no students around. He even put on a righteous act, pretending to reassure Jin Sidu. At least this way, you can avoid losing face in front of a crowd. Jin just watched him silently, not bothering to reply. The headmistress stood between them and announced the rules. The rules are simple. You will both fight using only spirit arts. The headmistress pretended to ask, but she was actually backing Jin Sidu into a corner. You're here for the spirit arts instructor gig, right? The best way to see what you've got is to see it for myself. Makes sense, doesn't it? The students who saw this couldn't help but get curious. What the hell is going on? Word on the street was a friendly match was about to go down. Milia overheard the gossip and couldn't help but glance over. Guess this is the first time I've actually seen Jita in a fight. Listening to them ramble on, Jin Sidu was already over it, thinking, what a complete waste of time. The headmistress and everyone else were watching them intently from the sidelines. Fine, whatever. Let's see what a guy from a so-called lower race can actually do. Even August Anton couldn't hide his hype watching Jin Sidu. This is the first time I'm seeing him fight for real. He knew exactly what the deal was with the lower races. Those guys usually have a super weak physique. Even if they did have some divine power, they could only use, like, a tiny fraction of it. Knowing this, all August Anton could do was silently pray for Jin. I just hope I didn't screw this up. You ready? Jita asked with a nasty grin. All right then. The old dude didn't waste any time, launching a fireball straight at Jin. I'll take the first shot, but Jin dodged Jita's attack like it was nothing. The students watching were like, whoa. Jita caught a glimpse of them and got even cockier. It's not a huge crowd, but at least I've got an audience. The old guy started charging up his power again, getting ready for another move. Bolts of lightning shot out from Jita, flying straight ahead, but no matter how strong the attack was, Jin Sidu just casually jumped and dodged all of it. Jita went all out, but in his head, he was just mocking him. Is running all you can do? Pathetic lower race trash. He was still super confident in his own power. I may not have become a holy knight, but I graduated at the top of my class from this academy. Jita wasn't about to let up, unleashing his ultimate move. You're not even in my league. Jin barely had a second to breathe before he had to dodge another one of Jita's attacks. But no matter how sick Jita's moves were, Jin dodged them without breaking a sweat. I really shouldn't have to use this kind of power on a mere human. But at this point, Jin was done playing dodgeball with this geezer. Guess I have no other choice. He started to tap into his own power. Jita's trash talk forced his hand. Fine. I'll show you a little taste of it. A massive sphere of power materialized right over Jita's head. The red orb slammed Jita straight into the ground. The headmistress and Rudman's eyes went wide, totally shocked by what they were seeing. Even August Anton was floored. He couldn't hide the absolute shock on his face. Milia was just as stunned, staring at Jin's move. Jita was totally flattened, couldn't even get up. I'm starting to have my doubts about this. What the hell was that? What just happened? Jin walked over to him, real slow, and started talking smack. I just tweaked the gravity around you a little bit. Is that kind of spirit art something you've never seen before? He smirked again, that same nasty, sarcastic smile. Looks like I'm going to have a lot to teach at this academy. Jin tightened his gloves, making a declaration to everyone watching. Lessons not just for the students, but for all of you too. Jita was completely pinned by Jin, totally immobilized. The old guy struggled to lift his head, gritting his teeth as he glared at Jin. Jin just casually snapped his fingers. After the snap, the orb-crushing Jita just vanished. Jita, still not getting the memo, started yelling again. Jin, what kind of trick was that? It was obviously spirit art. You didn't know, sir. Jita, totally embarrassed and pissed off, just started pointing at Jin's face and screaming. I've never heard of some freaky spirit art like that. You must have used some cheap parlor trick. Ugh, look at him. Seeing him act like a total clown, the headmistress and Rudman were just speechless. This is, for real. The two of them finally looked convinced of Jin's power. Well, looks like that's over. Guess so. The students who watched the whole thing started whispering to each other. Milia had already figured out the move Jin just pulled. No doubt about it. That was some super high-level spirit art. Did you see that? What the hell was that insane thing? She still couldn't believe what she saw, trying to find some way to explain it away in her head. How is that even possible? Unlike us, who evolve with the spirit's protection, that lower race isn't supposed to have any divine power at all. Milia glared ahead, her eyes full of murder. She was laser-focused on Jin, totally suspicious. So who the hell is that guy? Please, calm down. A commanding voice echoed across the campus. A week later, the headmistress was up on stage, lecturing all the students. This academy isn't just about book smarts. Our real goal is to train real warriors, people who can actually take out the rotten. Faced with her threat, some kids look cocky, others look terrified. Anyone who can't keep up gets kicked out. No questions asked. On top of that, the headmistress also dangled a pretty sweet carrot. However, for those of you who actually finish the program, becoming a holy knight won't just be some stupid dream anymore. She stood there all imposing, telling everyone, your results are all on you. Milia and her crew were watching from up high, and they couldn't help but comment. Wow, we got a lot of new blood this year, huh? Yeah, and it looks like a ton of them are commoners. While Milia was lost in thought, someone called her name. Some dude with orange hair walked up to her. Milia, never thought I'd see you at the entrance ceremony. Figured you were the type who couldn't care less about other people. They just stood there, chatting. What about you? If there's some high and mighty noble in the fresh meat pile, you'd just be trying to suck up to them to keep up appearances, right? Suddenly, the orange-haired guy totally freaked out, looking down below. What the hell is going on down there? His eyes landed on Jin Sidu, who was just sitting there. Why is some lower-race chump chilling in the faculty seats? Simple. He's a professor. Milia could tell what the orange-haired dude was thinking just by looking at him and wanted to know his take on it. What? From your point of view, what's your take on that guy? The orange-haired kid just stammered, his face a total mess of confusion. No matter what, Milia kept up her usual stuck-up attitude as she sized up Jin. He's just some dude from a low-tier race. Guess you're not wrong. Down below, Jin was scoping the place out. He glanced around, his mind already plotting. This school is seriously huge. Investigating this place is going to take forever. Jin caught the other students giving him these nasty looks and already had a goal in mind. Still, those stares were seriously pissing him off. First things first, he had to shake this low-tier race label. Even the instructor next to him seemed sketched out sitting with Jin Sidu. If this keeps up, I'm going to draw away too much attention. Forget the investigation, I'm turning into the most suspicious person in this whole academy. So Jin already had a plan. First, he needed to get these guys to acknowledge him. For now, everything was chill at the academy. Jita got up on the podium and started talking about today's class. All right, starting today, we're kicking off our lessons on spirit arts. He said it with total confidence in his class of students. To make sure you don't get schooled by some newbies, you all better stay on your toes. Not that you guys are worried, since you're all the elite class or whatever. But Jita just flashed this smug grin and said, yeah, that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. When he saw how empty the classroom was, Jita totally lost it and started chewing them out. What the hell is going on? Why is this class so damn empty today? Huh. Have you all completely lost your motivation? Milia, sitting near the front, just sighed. She knew exactly what was up. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Even while he was yelling, Jita was secretly gloating. I mean, who the hell would want to sit through a class taught by some low-tier trash? He was the reason nobody showed up today. I made sure to spread the rumor everywhere that some scrub from a low-tier race was going to teach today. Jita faked a big, friendly smile and invited Jin Sidu to the front. What a pain in the ass. All right, let's just get this over with. Mr. Jin, go ahead and introduce yourself. Without missing a beat, Jin stood up in front of everyone to introduce himself. I'll start with the introductions. My name's Jin. The students down below looked annoyed. I've been assigned here to guide you through the basics of spirit arts for a while. Nice to meet you all. That's when some orange-haired dude crossed his arms and started grilling Jin Sidu. You really think you have what it takes to do this? Jin Sidu clocked his attitude and just coolly replied, "That's for you guys to decide for yourselves." Instead of getting pissed, Jin actually made them an offer. "If you think what I'm teaching is worthless, feel free to ditch my class." Then his face got all dark and serious as he warned them. "But there's one absolute rule you have to remember. You are to absolutely never use this power to hurt people." Jin looked at the power in his own hand, then started teaching the class everything he knew. The whole point of spirit arts is its ability to shut down the insane regeneration of the corrupted. Jin Sidu used concrete examples to teach the students, but the shutdown effect doesn't work on human bodies at all. You'll only end up giving them physical wounds, that's it. And you know why? With a deadly serious look, Jin clenched his fist and declared, "Because this power was created for one single purpose, to annihilate the corrupted." Seeing how intense he was, Milia felt a little intimidated. "That's why I'm telling you, you are not allowed to abuse this power." Some guy in the class heard that, laughed out loud, and shot back, "Are you an idiot? Power is just power, period." It was the gray-haired dude from earlier, with a defiant look on his face, purposely mocking Jin Sidu. "I was curious what some low-tier nobody could possibly teach, and you're telling us not to use spirit arts?" His comment made the whole class burst out laughing. "Maybe you're just shaking in your boots in front of us, since you're just some powerless loser from that low-tier race, right?" And just like that, the whole class started whispering and snickering, not even caring that Jin Sidu was right there. He wasn't even surprised by their attitude. He just let out a quiet sigh and said, "If you really think I've got no power, then go ahead and prove it." This time, Jin Sidu goaded the gray-haired student. "What? Hit me with the strongest attack you've got." Jin even threw down a bet to challenge the kid. "If you can so much as put a single scratch on me, I promise I'll get lost and never come back." The gray-haired kid heard that and just busted out laughing. The guy didn't hold back at all, instantly unleashing his power. "Don't come crying to me when you regret this. You low-tier trash, don't wait till it's too late to back out." When Jita saw that power, he just grabbed his head and started freaking out at the kid. "Hey, you moron, stop right now. Are you trying to hit me, too?" The gray-haired punk unleashed his power and attacked Jin. "Eat this." A massive wave of energy shot like a bullet straight at Jin Sidu. The blast of power slammed right into Jin's spot, creating a massive shockwave. The gray-haired dude was still smirking, waiting to see what happened. Suddenly, a small knife shot straight out from the smoke. The knife whizzed right past the gray-haired guy's head. It slammed straight into the wall, shattering a huge chunk of it right behind him. Jin Sidu slowly walked out of the smoke and said, "If I had actually been trying, you would have been dead from that last attack." That was the exact lesson he wanted to teach that gray-haired punk. Judging people just by their looks is a fatal mistake. The orange-haired student who saw the whole thing was still completely frozen, his mind racing with questions. What the hell was that? Was that even spirit arts? All the students were now seriously intimidated by Jin Sidu's power. Just then, he spoke up. "You believe I was weak just because I come from a low-tier race, didn't you? But the reality is, I'm way stronger than you." With an imposing aura, Jin Sidu spoke loud and clear. "So, what do you think you should be calling me? Let me answer that for you." That last move was a lesson to demonstrate Jin's power. He used the moment to establish his authority as their teacher. Then he made a specific point. "Does anyone here actually understand the conditions needed to activate spirit arts?" He looked down at all of them and then added pointedly, "You, the one who just attacked me. Answer the question." The kid stood up, looking all nervous and flustered. Well, it's just based on your imagination, right?" He quickly summoned a spell while racking his brain to explain. "Mages focus and raise their spiritual power, and then you just beam an image from your mind to the spirits to make it real. Isn't that, like, the most basic knowledge ever?" Hearing that answer, Jin Sidu's lips curled into a smirk. Imagination is definitely important, but it's not the ultimate trigger. As he finished speaking, he summoned a ball of energy in his palm. The spirits only really unleash their power after they receive a specific wavelength frequency. Hearing this, the student's face went blank. "A wavelength frequency?" Jin just kept on explaining. "Basically, there are a total of 8 main types of wavelengths." He carefully demonstrated and explained each one. Incinerate. In his other hand, a second power immediately sparked to life. Discharge. Then he summoned a third energy. Heal. And so on, until he finally summoned the last one. Freeze. These are all powers you guys should have mastered by now. The students just stared, frozen in place, as Jin Sidu continued his explanation. "Besides the ones I just showed you, he called forth another type of magic, the ability to manipulate gravity. In his other hand, a brilliant light appeared, light control, followed by air pressure control, and the power I've been using this whole time. After running through all those powers, Jin Sidu finally revealed the last one was spatial protection. To be able to apply all these fundamental principles. Seeing this, Jita was stunned, thinking to himself, you can seriously master all 8 types of spirit arts? Jin Sidu looked at the spirit arts in his hands with a cocky expression. It's just like how you launched that electric spear at me earlier. Visualization is a key factor, you can't do without it. After a moment's pause, a slight smile touched his lips. Now, Jin crossed his arms, looking totally relaxed. Shall we begin the actual lecture? Time flew by until the class ended. Jin walked alone down the hallway, thinking to himself, all right, things have come to this. I need to start my investigation inside this massive academy. But just then, he noticed some students whispering nearby. That professor. Jin's eyes suddenly darted over to them, noticing their attitude. Everywhere I go, this place is crawling with students. I still haven't found any spot that's actually suspicious. Spotting Milia nearby, an idea sparked in Jin Sidu's mind. Should I maybe look for restricted areas where students aren't allowed to go? His eyes narrowed, glancing over at her. As if her sixth sense was tingling, Milia looked back at him. Jin played it cool and walked past, but Milia quickly called out, Hey, you! Who the hell are you, anyway? He turned back and replied with a sarcastic tone. So, you're not just some low-tier race after all, huh? She snapped back, pissed off. You're definitely not just some ordinary person, I'll give you that. With that said, Milia's expression turned gloomy. A low-class being shouldn't be able to use all types of spirit arts. Hearing that, Jin looked clueless. I literally just explained this in class. Anyone can do it as long as they can separate the wavelengths. Milia Anton sighed, like she couldn't be bothered. Don't talk about it like it's so easy. Her eyes flicked over to some other students who were whispering. He has all the spirit arts at his command. For real. Hearing that, Milia said with certainty, If it were that easy to do, you wouldn't be causing this much of a scene. Then she turned to leave. Let's find somewhere else to talk. Soon, the two of them arrived at a deserted spot with no one else around. Milia suddenly turned back and asked, So, are you ready to answer my question now? Jin was still playing it cool. Simple. I'm an ancient guy from 100 million years ago who was taking a long nap in Kodama village. As she walked, she shot back, You're a real comedian. You know that? Milia stopped and got serious. All right, let me ask you again. What were you doing 100 million years ago? The weird question made Jin a little curious. A lot of stuff happened. Back then, I was a secret agent. Milia frowned, suspicious. A secret agent, he just smiled and explained, someone who works for their country. I fought against countless villains. Jin recalled the past. His mind drifted. Even though it was 100 million years ago. He remembered watching everyone discuss strategy. Remembering the night attack, a wave of emotion washed over him. But I can still remember it as clearly as if it were yesterday. Thinking back on it now, Jin Sidu let out a nostalgic laugh. Man, what a trip. Milia was still skeptical after hearing his story. I'm just wondering why someone like you ended up sleeping for 100 million years, he answered bluntly, completely unfazed. Because I failed. Jin slowly started to explain. I used to think I could handle everything myself, if I just worked hard enough. But the price for that was losing everything while I was completely helpless. I accepted this teaching position, hoping that all of you would help me out when I get into a jam. Hearing this, Milia thought to herself, I wonder how much of what he's saying is actually true. After finishing his story, Jin Sidu asked cluelessly, By the way, where are we going? She walked ahead, all casual. Well, anyway, I figure I should do my duty as a guide. A little while later, Milia led him to a dilapidated room, covered in dust and cobwebs. We're here. Jin walked in, a bit skeptical. Where is this place? Milia Anton explained bluntly, This is the room where instructors store materials for their classes. Hearing that, he rubbed his chin, thinking, So this is just a storage room? Jin Sidu started looking around. Suddenly, he spotted an owl statue on a bookshelf. As soon as he saw the statue, Jin's eyes narrowed, sensing something off. He immediately turned and asked Milia, Why did you bring me here? She pulled out a stack of papers. It means I'm conducting an investigation of my own. Milia specifically pointed out that there was a very unusual space right next to this room. It's large enough to be another room. Jin Sidu reached out and touched the statue. Seeing this, she asked, Pretty suspicious, right? If there's something shady going on, it's definitely in here. He was silent for a moment, then said, I see. As soon as he touched the statue, a secret passageway appeared. Looking at the dark passage, Jin Sidu figured her guess was spot on. Milia pointed towards the entrance, full of questions. How the hell can you tell? He answered, totally chill. Even though this area is covered in a thick layer of dust, Jin Sidu pointed straight at the wall and called it. But this spot right here is weirdly clean. The rest, that's just a gut feeling from all my experience. Then, he decisively walked into the passage. I'm gonna go check it out. You should probably wait out here. Hearing that, Milia totally panicked. Wait up, I'm coming with you. Jin Sidu stopped in his tracks and gave her a blunt warning. If something's in there, there's a good chance it's one of the corrupted. This is gonna be seriously dangerous. You get that, right? She just frowned and shot back. Don't you dare underestimate me. Milia puffed out her chest, all confident. For your information, my grades are top of the class this year, and I've got skills that are just as good as my brother's. Hearing that, he just cracked a small smile and nodded. All right, fine. I'll take your word for it. And just like that, Jin took the lead, with Milia following cautiously behind. As they walked, Jin could feel the path leading them deep underground. Hearing that, Milia thought to herself, man, that light control technique is super useful. After walking a bit further, Jin Sidu suddenly spoke up. If this was some fantasy story, I'd say this is the part where the monster pops out. Milia froze when she heard that. Then she suddenly asked, by the way, circling back for a sec, since you've been fighting these villains for so long, do you have any leads on who's behind all this? Jin Sidu gave a forced smile. You're asking way too many questions for one day. Then he let out a soft sigh, lost in thought. The image of Rudman suddenly popped into his head. It's possible, mister. Rudman is involved in this. Milia was stunned. How would you know that? Jin explained his reasoning, saying that the guy acts way too calm when you talk to him. But whenever he's not talking to anyone, it's like his mind is somewhere else completely. That's a classic sign of someone being forced to do something against their will. He remembered everything and laid it all out. His guard is also, abnormally high. But I've just been playing dumb, acting like I haven't noticed. Milia frowned, thinking it over. I always thought Professor Jita was the suspicious one, but Jin just smiled and said that's impossible for a lecturer like him. He remembered Jita's expressions, thinking that the guy wears every single emotion right on his face. So he's got to be a genuinely good dude, not a sneaky bone in his body. With that, he looked down the path ahead. All right, let's keep moving. Suddenly, they were hit with a scene of swirling white dust right in front of them. Milia looked up as she walked, taking it all in. It's insane that a space this huge is underneath the academy. In the middle of walking, Jin Sidu stopped short. What is this? Seeing his reaction, Milia got a little scared too. What's wrong? He exclaimed in shock. I can't believe it's in a place like this. Jin Sidu stared at the solid gate in front of him, thinking to himself. The gate to one of the labs Kagura left. They're everywhere. Jin looked up at the massive door blocking his path and muttered in awe. This is it. The lab Kagura left behind. He stared at the faint blue light covering the door, his mind racing. This door is protected by nanites. It has to be. At the same time, Milia was just gawking at the giant door, her face a mask of disbelief. A huge gate like this is. Under the academy, she edged closer to Jin Sidu and asked in a low voice, You think we can get inside? He reached out and lightly touched the door, answering calmly, Basically, you need an access key to get in. Milia looked at him, totally clueless. An access key? Jin kept scanning the area, his voice steady. Think of it as the catalyst that opens this door. With that, he quietly rested his chin on his hand, deep in thought. Memories suddenly flooded Jin's mind. The light from the small key around Hakama's neck flashed in his memory. He carefully analyzed it. In Kodama village, Hakama was the one who inherited the key. It's totally possible someone here inherited one too. Jin frowned slightly. If that's the case, then... Before he could even finish the thought, a faint light shot out from his hand. Jin Sidu placed his hand on the solid steel door. A second later, a system voice echoed in the silence, confirming highest level access authority. Jin Sidu is now unlocking the door. In just a moment, the massive door slowly creaked open, and a blast of freezing air rushed out. Jin stood there calmly, waiting for the door to open all the way, then let out a small sigh. The one trying to throw this nation into chaos. He led Milia Anton inside. Right in front of them was a giant monster, trapped in an iron cage. Is the one holding the access key. Jin Sidu finished in a low voice. The second Milia saw it, she stumbled back a few steps in terror. Her voice trembled. This monstrosity is right under the academy. She turned to Jin, her eyes full of suspicion. But how did you open the door? Didn't you just say you needed an access key? Jin Sidu just kept walking forward, answering her casually. The ancients were special. Milia watched him, a million questions racing through her mind. The ancients, she mumbled, frowning as she tried to piece it together. Is this guy really from 100 million years ago? Jin didn't seem to give a damn what Milia was thinking. He just strolled along, slowly checking out each monster locked in its iron cage. Suddenly, Jin Sidu stopped and sighed. This is weird. He frowned slightly, totally confused. Why would they let themselves get caught so easily? Jin glanced at the other monsters, quietly thinking. Even the other corrupted ones are the same. They're not showing any signs of wanting to attack. He suddenly remembered the monster he'd seen before. Come to think of it, the corrupted monster those bandits had was just as quiet when it was in its cage. Jin Sidu was lost in thought. And most importantly, he stared at the giant monster in front of him, his mind filled with questions. A corrupted one this massive. How the hell did they even get it in here? At that moment, Milia Anton, fanning herself lightly, suddenly spoke up. Looks like my brother's suspicions about this academy being shady were spot on. She frowned. She lowered her voice, plotting. If we set up an ambush here, the mastermind behind all this will definitely show their face. Just then, Jin Sidu cut her off flatly. No. He looked at Milia and explained calmly. Before we do that, we need to lock down the academy and wipe out every last one of these corrupted things. Hearing that, Milia totally freaked and yelled, Are you seriously telling me to just let that scumbag get away? Jin quickly shot back, his voice a little hesitant. Look, I get how you feel, but what happens if these corrupted beasts suddenly lose control? His voice dropped, and every word was meant to scare Milia Anton. The ones who'll be in danger are the students in the school. The ones right above our heads right now. Jin brought up the image of students laughing in the schoolyard, calmly reminding her, Your brother would definitely care more about everyone's safety than prioritizing catching some scumbag. Hearing this, Milia Anton started to calm down, admitting quietly, You have a point. Jin nodded slightly and added, Besides, I've got a really bad feeling about this. His voice suddenly dropped. My gut instincts are usually dead on at times like these. I want to take a closer look at this lab. Jin looked over at Milia Anton, his voice softening as if asking a favor. Contact August and lock down the academy for me. Can I trust you with this? Milia Anton immediately nodded in agreement. As soon as he got his answer, he turned and walked away, sighing to himself. All right then. Jin Sidu silently glanced at the intricate clock on the wall, then decisively walked deeper into the lab, lost in thought as he moved. With things like this, I'm hoping to find some kind of clue. Just then, the ticking of the clock echoed coldly through the space. Back at the school, Jita trudged along, surrounded by the whispers of everyone around him. He clenched his fists, furiously glaring at the students who were pointing at him. They say the new professor completely wrecked him. Ugh, how pathetic. Jita gritted his teeth, rage boiling inside him. It's all because of that inferior species that my honor has been completely destroyed. He seethed. Him? Control 8 types of spirit magic? He's definitely pulling some kind of cheap trick. Jita stomped his foot in frustration, screaming internally, I swear I'll be the one to expose him. Just then, a steady voice rang out from behind him. Professor Jita, the stern headmistress, looked at him, reminding him in a low voice, The students are starting to get scared, so could you please stop with the strange behavior? Jita jumped at the sight of her. Headmistress. The headmistress sighed, a hint of sarcasm in her voice. Well now, I don't mean to judge your personal hobbies. But hearing this, he was stunned. She thinks this is just some kind of pastime. Suddenly, she raised her voice. By the way, have you seen Professor Rudman? Jita hesitantly asked back. You mean Professor Rudman? He rubbed his chin thoughtfully as he replied, Now that you mention it, Professor Rudman. I haven't seen him since the entrance ceremony today. Before he could even finish his sentence, the headmistress let out a weary sigh. What a hassle. She held her head, her voice full of regret. I had something I wanted to ask his opinion on regarding the new students' classes. Suddenly, the headmistress froze, her sharp gaze flicking upward. What is that? She stared at the ominous cloud in the sky, her voice hesitant. What in the world is that? Elsewhere, Milia Anton was scrambling up from the deep underground cellar. She burst through the heavy cellar door, stepping out into the hallway above. As soon as she stopped, Milia Anton clutched her chest, panting, trying to catch her breath and regain her strength. She told herself she needed to report this to her brother immediately. But just then, a sharp, cold voice suddenly cut Milia Anton off. What is it you intend to report? As soon as she heard that voice, the color drained from her face, and she trembled, speechless. Rudman stood in the middle of the room as if he had been waiting for Milia for a long time, his voice dropping to a threat, Lady Anton. She looked at the treacherous smile on his face and screamed in terror. Professor Rudman. Over with Jin Sidu. Another heavy steel door opened, and a brilliant red light spilled out from the other side. Jin Sidu silently exclaimed, What the hell is this? He stared, stunned, into the room, the red glow reflecting on his face. Before Jin Sidu was a blazing red orb of energy, constantly absorbing something. He immediately started making deductions. It's pulsing continuously, like the heart of a living creature. Jin Sidu stared intently at the control panel, thinking with suspicion. Could Kagura have created these things? He glanced around, and his eyes immediately landed on a mysterious box resting on the table. Jin reached out and opened the box. Inside was a cube-shaped device and a strange liquid. He considered it internally, a communication system and a nanoparticle serum that Kagura left behind. Jin Sidu activated the cube-shaped device, his heart full of anticipation, hoping that he had left behind some clue to explain everything that was happening. As soon as the device was activated, a choppy voice rang out. An image of Kagura and his familiar voice appeared. "Can you hear me, Jin? It seems you finally found your way here," Kagura said calmly. "But I guess you would, because this location is the closest to the laboratory where you woke up." Suddenly, he leaned forward, his voice dropping. "That's right. In this very laboratory, we once created an absolutely incredible device." Jin Sidu glanced over at the strange liquid, as Kagura's voice echoed in his ear, and a part of that device's function has been sealed within the nanoparticles. He slightly adjusted his glasses, his voice rising with self-satisfaction. "I truly am a genius." "So what kind of device do you think this is?" Kagura exclaimed with excitement. "It's a tool for teleportation." Hearing that, Jin was instantly stunned. He stammered, "Teleportation?" At that exact moment, the image of the giant monster flashed in his mind. Jin looked at the strange, blazing red object pulsing in the middle of the room, unable to hide his shock. Unbelievable. A giant monster stood silently in an iron cage, surrounded by countless smaller caged monsters. The hands on the clock continued to move without stopping. Tick-tock. The massive clock showed time spinning continuously, and the bizarre, deep red machine on the other side gave off a creepy and fearful feeling. Jin frowned, worrying to himself. A machine for spatial teleportation? He pictured its immense power using the example of an apple. It had the ability to connect two separate points in space. This was a type of technology that was still impossible 100 million years ago. If that was true, then the unusual events were starting to connect. The things August Anton had mentioned before about the corrupted suddenly appearing in the capital. Jin connected them to the machine in front of him. Could they have been sent there using this teleportation device? He stroked his chin, thinking about those freaky warp monsters in the hall, while Kagura kept explaining on the other side of the screen. "And this thing," he pointed to the machine he built. "This is the spatial teleporter." Jin stared, totally stunned. It looked way different. He glanced up, comparing the bright, light blue machine on the screen to the horrifying, blood-red one right in front of him. So, what the hell is this thing? Time was still speeding by. The red machine suddenly started glowing like crazy, and the power pouring out of it put Jin Sidu on high alert. The light even hit the giant beast in the cage. It snapped awake, totally juiced up with power. In the next instant, a beam of light warped the beast somewhere else. Over in the capital, Ria came rushing up. "Hey, August Anton. We've got an emergency situation in the capital." August Anton looked up at the sky, his face grim. "Yeah, I'm aware of the situation." He frowned. This meant that monsters were literally falling from the sky in insane numbers. This was the absolute worst-case scenario. Rudman played dumb, asking, "What's going on? Why do you look so serious?" But his eyes were just pure evil. Milia backed away, ready for a fight. "Get out of my way. You're involved in this, aren't you?" Rudman's voice was calm. "Oh, so you already figured it out? Looks like you've been doing some snooping around, huh?" He smirked. "Too bad you're one step too late." Milia frowned. "What do you mean by that?" Rudman dropped the act. "Today is the day the plan goes into motion. That's what I mean." He let out an annoyed sigh. To be honest, the original plan was for a bit later. But since some pest was snooping around, I had to move up the schedule. Rudman's eyes lit up as he mentioned him. He was talking about Jin. "That man is definitely going to be a huge threat to my plan. That guy is just as much of a pain in the ass as your brother." Right then, Jin Sidu was also rushing to the scene, his gut telling him something was wrong. Rudman pointed to the passage behind Milia. In fact, he's already found that secret passage by now. He got closer and closer to Milia. "That guy is right below us as we speak. You get it? I'm just dying to pull these annoying weeds out by the roots, right now." Milia let out a little laugh as she channeled her magic. "You really think you have what it takes to beat me?" Rudman scowled, full of contempt. "Of course I can, because he got more and more worked up, have obtained a power that is unstoppable." He had no idea that Hakama had already snuck up from behind, holding a huge vase, ready to ambush him. Milia saw it happen too, but she didn't say a word. She just held her breath and waited while Rudman kept running his mouth. "I'll even show you how awesome it is." As a stream of magic began to pour out, he declared, "This is my new power." Hakama was right behind Rudman. A loud crash echoed through the room. Milia cracked a small smirk. Hakama let out a sigh of relief. The girl smiled. We won. A confused Milia Anton asked, "Why are you here?" Hakama answered, "I'm looking for Mr. Jin." The girl explained, "Everything outside is turning into total chaos. We really need Mr. Jin's help." Hakama turned her head to look at the person behind her. Then Kudo said that she saw Mr. Jin Sidu go inside this place. Milia hesitated, looking her over. "Are you a first-year student?" Kudo bowed her head, flustered. "Yes. My name is Kudo Plaza." She hid nervously behind Hakama. "Hey, Hakama, is this really okay? You just attacked a teacher." Hakama's voice was calm. "It's not going to be a problem." The girl pointed and explained, "He never got a look at our faces. We can just pin all the blame on this little Mizzy here." Milia Anton gritted her teeth in anger, thinking, "This little brat. Don't you dare call me Missy." The sound of footsteps outside got clearer, and Hakama whipped her head around. Jin had arrived just in time. Hakama yelled, "Mr. Jin." He looked around, confused. What just happened here? Hakama grabbed his sleeve. "Jin Sidu, the situation outside is getting really bad." Jin lowered his head and replied, "I know." His face was dead serious. "The corrupted freaks that were locked up in the lab. They're all gone now." Milia realized it too, horrified. Everyone quickly ran outside. The scene below the city walls was a chaotic mess. Fires were spreading, monsters were attacking people, and everyone was running for their lives. Some of the monsters could even fly, making it easy to attack people. Every step they took shook the ground. The lead monster was massive and muscular, and it had long, octopus-like tentacles around its face. A monster's roar echoed through the air. Milia covered her mouth in shock. "The capital is in danger?" Jin gritted his teeth. "I made a serious miscalculation. I should have just destroyed that machine from the start." Hakama pointed urgently. "Jin, look up there." The giant monster just kept roaring furiously. A large ball of magic was gathering in its mouth, aimed right at the capital. Kudo Plaza guessed in fear. That giant thing. It looks like it's aiming right for the royal castle. Milia was worried. If this keeps up, the members of the royal family are going to be in danger. Jin took out a syringe. "This is all my fault. I'll be the one to put an end to this." He injected the syringe into his arm, and a massive surge of power flooded his veins. The result of this power-up was a function that streamlined the spatial teleportation process. Jin remembered Kagura's words. Thanks to the energy stored in the nanoparticles, the usage limit is once per day. And at that moment, the monster launched the giant orb. The range is limited, so it can only be used for short distances within your line of sight. Even so, as the magic blast shot straight towards the castle, Jin teleported at the exact same time. He didn't hesitate to appear right in the path of the attack, using a magic shield to block the blow, and he could now instantly pop up in any location.